Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Analysis of a Crime with CD. Hope everybody's doing well. Make sure my audio is good here. Yes. Everybody hears me, right? Give me just tap 1 if you could hear me. Just want to make sure we're working. How's everybody doing today? I spent an hour and 15 minutes going over the entire affidavit, and something was wrong with the audio. I don't know. I'm going to have to redo it. Very frustrating, but what are you going to do? But we're going to go over it today. Aspen's going to join us around 12:30, 12:40. Glad everybody could hear me now. Would have been nice to somehow test it before when I was doing. It was my first time ever recording on StreamYard to post on YouTube. It is what it is. I mean, I gotta learn the ins and outs. But affidavit out yesterday. We're gonna go over it. What's important, and this is an extensive probable cause affidavit. Probably one of the most extensive that I've seen for for a single suspect. 18 pages long, very detailed. Goes into the inside the home. Vincent, the audio is out. Very soft audio. Still? Is it still? I went on to noise cancellation, so it should be better. Did you hear me? Good, perfect. So I could go back to. I like the transparency mode where I don't feel like I'm screaming. All right, good. Now it's fine. All right, perfect. So this is very detailed, 18 pages long. You have, I've never seen, I've really never seen law enforcement get blasted as bad as Moscow PD did for this case in 50 days. From start of the investigation to making it to the 50-day mark with an arrest. This was brutal. You had Brett Payne, who was the lead investigator. He got crushed by public opinion because he has 4 years on the job in Moscow, but he was also military police officer. So you gotta look at it every which way. Small department, think of Carroll County Sheriff's with Delphi, 13 officers, 13 officers including the sheriff for a huge area. Let's say hi to everybody. Let's see who's here. Dee is in the house. Miss Dog Lover. What's up, New York? Rory, how are you? Krista Cole. Jill. I said D. Vincent was telling me his audio was out, but we're back. Tony, I hope you can hear me now. I mean, I can raise my voice louder. I think I can get loud enough, but just let me know. Sam can hear. Vanessa's here. JD. Chicago Glenn. Jennifer Sheldon, how are you? I like that face mask skull. I used to wear that on my Harley when it was cold. Freak people out. Freak people out when you're riding up on the, they look in their their rear view and they see a skull coming at them. Especially when it glows in the dark. Crime Sleuthin, how are you? Crime Sleuthin has a channel, check her out. Tartan Blood. You could post Crime Sleuthin if you get a chance. Just post her channel. Tracy Wheeler. The Rockaways is here. Hard to see a way out of this for BCK. Yeah, I don't really like the 3 initials because he's such a piece of shit, allegedly. We'll go with allegedly. But things I picked up that, people who don't read PCAs often or know anything about them. Bryan's father's DNA was not found on the sheath. It was Bryan's DNA. They, PA State Police removed his garbage. This is used all the time. FBI does it. I've worked on cases where we've taken garbage for analysis. And PA, what they do is whatever town it is, they take the truck, their subpoena from the court. They use the truck of the town, county, whatever it is, whatever the sanitation department is, and you go collect the garbage. And you'll have, a couple uniformed cars in the area in case something happens where the guy who lives in the house is like, that's not my garbage. Who are these people? Just in case an altercation. Usually there isn't any. They come a little bit earlier than normal, just to throw the time off. They took the garbage. That's how they got the 99.9998% that it was the father of the suspect. That's the DNA. DNA on the sheath was from Bryan, on the snap of the sheath, not from the father. So we'll clarify that quickly, because that's going around in those wacky Facebook groups. Yeah, why not? Wear it whenever you can. Mrs. Thang, how are you? Hey, Jack. I think they did amazing. Being close to a missing case, knew they were doing things we didn't know. Oh, of course. And Chief Fry at one of his interviews, he got choked up about it, and I think he said something like, we have between the top 3 guys that had like 90 years of law enforcement, under their belt. They're not going to give you everything. Look at the car. They put it out on November 25th, 11th of 2013. Then the FBI guy who analyzed the video said it was an 11 through 2016. But on the 29th, Bryan's car was already found on the Washington property. They never updated it to being 2011 to 2016. They didn't need to. They felt that they had their suspect. Took a month to arrest him, but that's the way it goes. You want to make sure everything's ready. Everything's ready to go. I'm sure he would love BCK Tracy. I am sure he would. AB is in the house. What's up, AB? Steffa, I just saw your name. What's up, Steffa? How are you? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for being here. Did an outstanding job. As I said many times, they're not going to tell you everything. Made a couple mistakes here and there. I find it little weird that they removed the vehicles on November 2019, which they should have moved them earlier, but they didn't. And that's the same day that Bryan's vehicle was found. And they removed the vehicles off the property. Coincidental? Possibly. Possibly could just be something coincidental. But yeah, there's a lot in here. So before Aspen comes on, I just want to go over the Dylan thing. And, I'm just going to give it. All right, so talked to a lot of content creators behind the scenes, and I was given something in November, and me and him were talking about it last night. Hold on one second. Audio might have popped out for 1 second. Let me know if it did. That's because I had to turn Bluetooth off of my phone. When you got Apple, whenever you pick up your phone, if you're on the computer, it switches. I turn the Bluetooth off. So, I spoke to Jeremy a couple times. This info did not come to him. I've been talking to multiple people in and around the college, connections with maybe a frat, or just, it doesn't matter where it came from. But I just took screenshots because of it. We were just talking about it last night. He's like, man, you were so on with what you told me December 3rd. So I was told that this was what was talked about from the initial neighbors of the house and frat house where Ethan lived. That most likely Dylan woke up after hearing a loud noise, like a person jumping up and down or someone falling down, then a single scream. This is what I was told probably like within 2 weeks of the murders. And I didn't put it out there because it's rumor at that point, and there's no reason to, I'm not here to spread rumors. Here is where they don't know which is true. She may have looked out her bedroom, seeing a figure either up the stairs in the hallway that might have been wearing a mask, but it was dark. Thinking that she might be seeing things, she goes and locks the door in the other girl, and possibly in the other girl's room. Now, a lot of pieces of this are true. A lot of pieces of this are true. some of them, you know, like telephone, things get misconstrued when they're given to somebody else. Um, what I will say is, and listen, I'm not here to judge anybody. There might have been possible some type of drug use used that night that can cause maybe hallucinogenic behavior. That's all I'll say on that. And I'm not here to, you know, to victimize anybody. You know, it's college, people experiment with things, whatnot. Could that be the reason why maybe she didn't know if it was real or not? You know, that could be possible. But, you know, it just shows you that, oh, and that it could have been a black balaclava, which if you know what that is, this part is open. So you wouldn't, you know, you wouldn't see the hair because the hair wasn't described by her. And I was told it was a balaclava mask. So I might, we'll see. I mean, I have receipts. Like people say, I have them. And these were given, you know, this info was given to me, and, you know, I'm not going to say what type of drug it was, not important. Come to your own conclusion with that. And I said to this content creator, and he comes in here. It's not Sleuth, so I don't think it's Sleuth. It was somebody else that I talked to. And I said, if this is how it played out, I feel third floor was first, and then come down to the second floor. And that's exactly how it seems to possibly go on, maybe. Not that it matters. I mean, listen, it's not about being right. It's just the info that was given to me was right. Which, you know, when the info comes out, and now I know it was factual, that's, you know. So getting to Dylan's piece, right? Got to print it. I got it on the screen. Maybe I could put it on the screen. Let me see. I probably can. I got to go to the right page first. Page 4. This is page 4 of the affidavit. DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. She stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Goncalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms. Could have been a bounce, you know, jumping up and down, whatnot, which the bedroom is located on the third floor. Short time later, she heard who she thought was Goncalves say something to the effects of, "There's someone here." Just think about how horrifying that is. There's someone here, right? I mean, that's pretty creepy stuff, right? A review of records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed this could also have been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. She also was up because she grabbed her food. I don't know if she ate it. We do know the bag was on the counter. We don't know, you know, could have been full. We have no idea if she got to eat her food or not. Stated she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. So that's one time she looked out. Then she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Think about how horrifying that is. And, you know, it's 4 a.m., it's dark, it's pitch black. You don't want to turn your light on and draw, you know, anything into you. At approximately 4:17 a.m., security camera located at 1112 King Road. Residents immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road picked up distorted audio, which sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. To me, the loud thud was Zana, you know, hitting the floor, because we know she was found on the floor now. Okay, so then she stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's nose, walking towards her. So that can be fitting to a balaclava because there's nothing said here about hair. It says 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. Male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. So I was told that she locked herself downstairs. That wasn't true. She locked herself in her own room. But that's what I'm saying. Some pieces were distorted, but a lot of it was factual. You know, and the info coming from, what's up, Jim? The info coming from within Idaho, within Moscow, was right from the jump. I mean, you know, this was said right after the murders happened. And believe me, Dylan is possibly the one who fainted when 911 first got there. So the 911 call, as I said, something very pertinent was on it. That's why they didn't release it. So you had her friend relaying she saw a person in the hallway. She saw him walk right past her, the description. So you put that out, and then Bryan's gone. He's going to try and get out of the country. So they did the right thing. They did the right thing. Hearing that 911 call is going to be jarring because it's going to, you know, it's going to help tell the story. She did not recognize the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. And what I say to you, it has to be somebody who was stalking the house, you know, probably came into contact with one of the girls. We haven't been told it yet, but that's coming. That's the next part to come. And if anybody noticed, right, it says about his Vans sneakers. Looks like he's wearing Vans. When he was getting on the plane, he had the toilet paper from wiping his ass stuck to his shoe. You know, they weren't touching that. They let him walk around with, they looked like toilet paper stuck to his shoe. So, whatever, right? So yeah, this is very disturbing when you think about it. You know, very disturbing stuff. I put the wrong page up. Nobody told me. Here's page 4. And here's the Vans type shoe. Nobody's talking about that either. So let's get back. Let's also get to his vehicle, right? So Pennsylvania, one state, one plate state. So you only have a license plate on your rear of your vehicle. Connecticut's the same thing. New York is a dual state plate. But Connecticut and Pennsylvania, you only need one plate on the rear of the vehicle. As it's in here on the cameras, only one plate was visibly seen, right, on the rear of the vehicle. So November 13th, the murders. November 18th, 5 days later, he goes and registers the vehicle in Washington. They don't give you, you know, you don't get your registration right away. He didn't get his plates till, I believe, December 5th. But when they found his car on December 2019, the Washington State University Police, right, when they find his vehicle on the campus, they run the VIN on top of his PA plate, and it comes back with also registered in Washington and the plate number. They might have, so, you know, this is just all around great job, great communication between Washington State University Police to Moscow Police, just the whole way around. Oh, and let's also correct that the FBI did not direct either of the Indiana County Police, County Sheriff's Office, or Indiana State Police to stop his vehicle. That is just nonsense rumor. FBI put out a statement through the media yesterday. Think about it, right? I mean, it was put out that they wanted to stop him and see his hands. Did you see how long you saw his hands for? If they really wanted to film his hands, the officer would have went to the driver's side. Yes, a little more risky on the highway, but he would have narrowed, you know, he would have angled his car to protect his body, you know, and get closer up to him. So it's just, you know, it's just the way it goes. It's just, you know, you got the sleaze news out there. You know, it's the way it is. Let's see what everybody's saying. Could the someone's here be an alert to the food delivery? Like, hey, yeah, I mean, possibly. Could be. Could be. Dog was found in Kaylee's room. Dog was barking at 4:17 a.m. I mean, as I told you, a dog is going to, it doesn't matter if the dog is a shy dog, It's nighttime. It's sleep time. Dogs know. The dog was barking. I mean, it's crazy that, and we don't know the whole story of why Dylan didn't. We know pieces. I was told pieces from early on, but it's not for me to judge. But it's tough. It's a tough one. I feel very bad for both of those girls. Their lives are never going to be the same. Yeah, I mean, Rockaway's. I'm with you. I just don't want our chat to turn into attacking her because this poor girl is traumatized forever. Four of her friends are just gone. This is terrible stuff. Just reading what's going on here. People seem to ignore that calling police requires you to talk. No, it doesn't. No, you call 911, and now, especially now, you're in your phone, in your iPhone. You have in your emergency contact when you dial on 911, they have your address. You could just say help. That's it. That's it, and they should have your address in there. You got anybody who has somebody they think is somebody's in their house, please attempt to call 911. Get help. You have kids in your house, make sure you're do what you got to do to protect your family. Oh no, I totally get it. It could be just total trauma related, absolutely. But it was this was from early on from people close that said that. So I mean, it is what it is. I'm not here to judge her. It's not my place. Yep. Yep, absolutely. And the DoorDash driver pulling up could be the reason that Bryan, I mean, I talked about it in the video, I just spent an hour and 15 minutes making, how he was so amped up to get in the house. He couldn't even park his car right. He tried to park because they had it on the camera. His car tries to park, it didn't work. So he goes up, makes a 3-point turn, and he basically just dumps his car. I think in the parking lot. I think, something was up there. That's why they were using luminol to check up by the third building up there by Jeremy's apartment. And remember, it's pitch black back there. Now it's not. Now it's lit up. The apartment building put up lights, but it was pitch black. I know a bunch of YouTubers went there, but remember, Jeremy said it within a week the lights were up. So they're like, oh, it's lit over here. No, it wasn't the night of the murders. It was dark. It was very dark. Hey, Tattoo. I hope you're doing well. Hope you are doing well. Rockaway is Vanessa, the defense attorney, is gonna, it's so aggravating that the video didn't record audio. I went over all of it. They're gonna pick her apart. They're gonna pick her apart. How intoxicated were you? Were you using any psychedelic drugs? That's the rumor that's out there. They're gonna run with it. Why didn't you call for help? If you feel you saw him, why didn't you call for help? Those are normal jail shoes, at least PA. I mean, they could be. They just look like Vans. I mean, usually we'll just take your laces. We'll just take your laces if you're going to the county jail. We're not going to issue you shoes, but it could be. Oh, I mean, I feel horrible for both of them. They're never going to be the same. To be able to function, sleeping is going to be hard for them. It's terrible. It is. It's terrible stuff. Well, let's. This is good. Rockaway said, "Hard to say until we know her full testimony. I think the other evidence will be more important to the jury's decision: DNA, blood, etc." Now, people are bashing Bryan. I mean, he drove his own car there, but how else was he going to get there? 10 miles in between, 14-minute drive. That's an hour and a half, 2-hour walk. Think about it that way. Not going to happen. You can't take an Uber there. That they're going to check Uber. You know, they're going to subpoena Uber to see if any what rides came in from there. You know, how else is he getting? Renting a car? They're going to have that checked, all rental cars. You know, especially the cameras in the area. He was there 12 times. Remember that. 12 times that his phone was on. How many times was he there? It was off. Think about that. He was hunting. He was hunting. He was hunting them. Did he see them at, and again, said this in the video that isn't going to get published because the audio didn't work. Did he see them at the grub truck? Did he buy them a meal? You know, anybody's good at checking Twitch. See if BK, when Aspen comes on, he knows the username. See if, you know, the Halloween weekend, if he bought them a meal, you know, could be, you know, there's going to be something there. There's going to be something there. Oh, I got to put up the video of what looks like him removing the camera. We talked about it on a live Tuesday. I forgot to do that because I was waiting for him to get off the plane, but I'll do that later. I will get that up. Oh, Krista, they destroyed the innocent. You know, Jax, Jake, everybody got destroyed. Jeremy, you know, the other neighbor, he looks suspect. You know, anybody that could be attached to this, that Facebook group was this. It's disturbing. I mean, you know, the mods that run it could even be in here. It is what it is. I get it. There's 185,000 members now. It's hard to control what's being published in there, but it's, you know, it's not good for anything. Cold Truth is in the house. Let's do it, Mel. Yeah, there's text that I want. There's, you know, my whole thing is if you feel somebody is in your home, do what you got to do. Make the call, you know, get help. Get help. Yeah, I could send you the link. Just wait for Aspen. I think he's coming out right now. Tech Death, what's up? Stefan, do you have my email? Email me so I can send you the link. Analysis of a crime at gmail.com. Oh, Jody, I could totally understand. The sheriff said that he's going to attempt to accommodate his eating habits, but he will not be buying new pots for the jail. No, he's not going to be. I don't see him. I don't see him confessing. I don't see it. I don't see that happening. I don't know. Tech that. Thanks. I don't know. I have no idea. Could be. Could be losing weight. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, listen. You got people on Twitter saying wacky things that he wore a camera, and you know, there's an accessory that's going to be arrested soon, and who knows what else. Not he really didn't have a choice. Oh, so I was getting back to think about, yes, he, you know, criminal justice, you know, taking crime scene, he's taking every course under the sun, getting his doctorate. They only found one sample of his DNA on the sheath. And remember, he goes back there 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:12 to 9:21. 12, I think he's there 9 minutes. He's debating whether he's going to go back in that house to find the sheath. That's why he's there. He wasn't there to see if law enforcement found the scene yet. He must have, you know, the adrenaline dump happened. He gets home and he was probably scrambling, thinking, you know, where could the sheath be? Where could it be? Takes the ride back and doesn't go in. You know, doesn't seem like he went in because the sheath was still there, but still. Oh yeah, get a Malinois for her. You know, dog will throw itself into the fire for their owner. Dog not for everybody, but somebody who needs a therapy, a protection dog that is, get it highly trained, that's the way to go. I mean, not Rockaways, I get it, but too bad those girls weren't armed to protect their home and their lives. I get it, but not many, 20, 21-year-old females, are packing heat in their house. A gun would have made a huge difference. I mean, she would have taken him out, but it's just not something that many 21-year-old females do. Nothing's been said that he had one, that he had a stun gun. She heard a loud thump, and she heard crying, and then she heard, "It's okay, I'm gonna help you," but that's it. Yeah, but she made eye contact with a man all in black, um, walking right towards her, mask on. It's creepy stuff. You never know. She might. Everything's not going to be in here of what her whole encounter. It's just going to be what her encounter was when he was in the house. She might have, called their name out in the morning, you know, whatever, and then she was too scared to leave her room, so she had somebody come in to get her out of the house first. Thank you, Miss Persevere. I got that. It's a good name. Can the judge block him from getting all the groupie letters? Yeah, for now it's possible. I mean, it's like any other case. It's going to happen. There's nothing. I knew he's going to be getting. I mean, look at Chris Watts. I mean, everybody wants to date Chris Watts. Wacky stuff. Wacky stuff. Yeah, but he pinged near their house, and it doesn't seem like he drove that close to the house because they didn't say they had him on camera when he went back to the scene. His phone pinged there. He had his phone on at the time. I don't think they need to say that. I'll look again, but I don't think they. I mean, they don't need to say that if the car was captured again. It's just not important for the probable cause affidavit. It just shows him going back to the crime scene. Yeah, it is. It's scary times to have kids, and it's everybody that has kids, you gotta think about when it's good for you, that and do it the right way. But you gotta talk to your kids about what's out there. It just has to happen because you can't trust anybody. You can't trust anybody around your kids. Kids have to be able to have their guard up and know when they feel like something's not right to get the hell out of there. It's by a guy who, for some reason, people, not that everybody trusts him, but there's a select few because I guess he had something with the Gabby Petito case, but he also put out a bunch of stuff that wasn't true. So who knows? I mean, who knows? The Rockaways, if they didn't find the sheath, they would have still got to him. But the problem is his DNA wouldn't have been in the house. This seems to be the only piece of DNA that was found in the house. So that tells, balaclava on his head so no hairs will fall, maybe a hair cap underneath that tight. Remember that when the evidence team came out of his house, they had the box of the foot covers, feet covers to cover your feet when, going into a crime scene or whatever. We just don't know, we don't. It took them a second time to even find the shoe print in Dylan's doorway. So that just shows you how close he was. You know, did he go walk out and then walk back in and walk up to her door, but her door was already locked, and she laid down and said, you know, just zoned out, you know, with what she saw. That could be possible, you know. But his shoe print was in her doorway. Oh, Miss Doglover, thank you. I was staying alone at my parents' house once, and in the middle of the night, the burglar alarm went off. I know what it's like to be frozen in fear. I was petrified and couldn't move. Oh yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. When I was like 18, and I was at my girlfriend's house, and they had a really big house, like a mansion, beautiful house, and so the bedrooms, all the bedrooms were like down this one hallway that had like a steel door. It was like to protect the family kind of thing. Steel door, double lock, and like a steel bar. So nobody's getting, you know, nobody's getting through that door. So something happened where the father thought somebody was in the house and was like freaking out, like somebody's in the house, blah blah blah. And then the alarm went off. I don't know what was. It was very crazy. So he calls 911, and then he goes, "You're going to be a cop." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in college for criminal justice." He goes, "That's what you want to do?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, you're going to go open the door for the police." I'm like, "Okay." Next thing I know, he basically like pushed me out of the protected door and just threw me in this hole. I was the one that was going to die. Okay, if Michael Myers was in the house, I was done, because he basically, the door was already closed. I was pushed the door. I was like, "All right, what?" I opened the door. I said, "I don't live here. It's my girlfriend's house." They had their guns out because the way he called. I said, "Everybody's down the wing over here." He just shoved me out the door to, you know, to open it up. They were laughing, and ended up being a guy I knew who was the third car there. So you know, people do crazy things, you know. But I totally get what you mean. He was petrified, you know. I was the collateral damage if that was going on. I think I do think that maybe it was Ethan trying to maybe talk to her, you know, unless it was this sick bastard, you know, basically you know, basically telling her, "I could help you, like, you know, finish you off." Who knows? You know, will we learn more of that? Maybe. You know, maybe when, you know, she has to testify and say who she feels it was. You know. Oh, he definitely was in panic when he figured out that the sheet was missing. You know, a lot of people look at those kids as responsible adults. You know, they are kids. No, they are. Listen, I mean, 21-year-olds in college, yeah, they're held to a higher standard than an 18-year-old kid in college. But they're still partying. They're still, you know, it's college. I got hired at 22 as a cop. Wake up call. Starting the academy. Major wake up call. Not even 2 months later, 9/11 happened. So 22, I was grown up. That was it. That 9/11 happened, and the next 3 months was like I aged 10 years mentally. Nothing mattered, you know, not like nonsense wise. True crime as a community is starting to disturb me. Oh, hybrid, it's bad. You know, we're seeing more and more of like these lunatics that think they deserve to know everything about the case. They bash the shit out of anybody. They'll dox anybody, and they'll accuse anybody. Doesn't matter. And there's no repercussions for it. It's just bash the shit out of somebody. They're the killer. Here's their address. It's bananas. They need to get another hobby. I don't think he's going to represent himself. I don't. I don't. He's going to face the death penalty, you know? I think in his eyes, the best case scenario is life in prison. I don't think he's going to chance getting a death penalty by trying to, you know, trying to represent himself. He's got a pretty good attorney. That sucks, but that's just the way you know, entitled to a fair trial. You know, he has a pretty good attorney. Just listening while I'm at working. Really hope that everyone remembers that so far there's only one perpetrator in this case. Those two girls would have been terrified. Oh yeah, absolutely. And remember, there, you know, not that they would say it in the probable cause affidavit that they would have if they had a second, sample of DNA from somebody as a suspect, but that would never be said. But you could tell, Chief Fry, there's relief off of them that they have their guy. So let's, right now there's only one suspect, and he is Idaho. He faced the judge for the first time yesterday. Within 2 weeks, he's going to have his preliminary hearing, and we'll go from there. Tech Death, I don't believe he wanted to get caught. I think he was just getting started, but the adrenaline dump caused him to forget his sheath. How he didn't remember it when he got to the car, and where is it? Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. I agree with you, Mel. I have the address. Let me see. I got it somewhere. Let's see if I have it on here. Hold on. It was behind. It was in town behind the. It looks like it's directly down the street from the Subway sandwich shop there in Moscow. I got it. I will find it. Let's see if I pull it, if it comes up here. I will find it. I have it. But if you go to even Google Maps and you go into town, you see the subway. There's the subways is up, and straight down is like all storefronts, and behind that is looks like an alleyway. It was in the alleyway where he ripped the camera down. It's a white Elantra, and it really does. I'd say I'm 90% sure plus that it's him. Well, they have the car. They're processing it. That Pennsylvania took it as evidence, and I'm sure the FBI in PA, Philly, went through it. Their crime scene unit. Yeah, I think that, remember, Jeremy was walking his dog around that time. I spoke to Jeremy about it, and Jeremy said he's never seen the vehicle, never seen the guy. But I said to him, how creepy would that have been if you encountered him, like maybe like he just pulled up, stared at you, and drove away, and you remember? He goes, yeah, that would be really crazy. I spoke to him last night about that too, and that would be, if you think about how creepy that would have been very creepy stuff. Yeah, we had a call in on the live Tuesday, and I spoke to another person, but that person doesn't feel comfortable coming on, which I can understand. He was actually very good friends with him. He, on a live, and I totally understand that. But yeah, everybody that's has been friendly with him at one time, even people that lived around him, they're going through it. Yeah. Oh, we could do that. Yeah, I got some crazy tales from before getting hired and even after. Yeah, Rockaways. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is yeah. Also, a probable cause affidavit like this, it's not for, if somebody can't handle it, don't read it. This is tough stuff. This is real. You know, this is so real. You gotta, everybody's got to remember that these families are hurting. If you listen to if you listen to the court appearance when the judge brought up, the murder of Kaylee, you hear her whole family, because they were pretty much right near the camera, sobbing. Just hearing their daughter's name and knowing that the guy who did it the guy who allegedly did it is sitting in that courtroom. It's a weight off their shoulders, but it's also going to be a long road. This case is going to take a long time. Good, Krista. Good. See, Krista said I had a guy knocking on my front door. Did not answer. He went around the house to the back, knocked on my back door. She hid in her office. He came through the back door, and every police officer in town came quietly. She called 911 quietly. Good job. You have to protect your house, protect your family. Make the call. Don't not call. That would be a hit. Yeah, I got some wild stories. I got some wild, wild stories. Some are really crazy. What did I miss? They got the DNA from the garbage. No. The DNA from the garbage was the hit. The DNA that they got Bryan on was on the sheath. On the probable cause affidavit, they talk about the sheath. And last page 18, it says, the last paragraph, I believe, talking about the dad. And that's how people got confused. On December 27th, 2022, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from the Kohberger family residence located in Albrightsville, PA. That evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. On December 28th, 2022, the Idaho State Lab, the DNA profile obtained from the trash and the DNA profile obtained from the sheath identified a male as not being a biological father of suspect profile. At least 99.9998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being the suspect's biological father. So that tells you that that's his father. Has the same DNA makeup as the suspect. Yeah, I mean, in Utah, you had that father that took out the entire family, total of 8, including him. I don't, because his wife was divorcing him. This doesn't make sense. Yeah. But think about 4 a.m. and a stranger being in the house, walking in the hallway. Dogs know, they smell, they hear, they know. Everybody that lives in the house, they know the sounds of their feet, hitting the floor at the walk. It's different. Is it verified that the internet power at UI was down the night of the murders until 11 a.m. next night? It is said that the internet was down. I don't know about I don't think the entire power was down, because you saw buildings lit up in the background of the body cam when the cops stopped the underage kids. But there was something. But we know that TikTok was working for Zana. She was in a room on TikTok. She probably fell asleep with it open or something. Oh yeah, I talked about that in the video. That he wanted to work at the Pullman, Washington Police Department. He's a sick puppy, man. For data analysis, to help them, rural police departments with their data analysis. Yeah, this guy's a real psycho. Yeah, Rockaways, they were great. They were great. They told you what you needed to know. Oh, here comes somebody.
Hey, everybody.
He is. What's doing?
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I got home as quick as I could.
No, it's all good. Were you sitting there long? I was talking.
No, I was not. I just came in.
Oh, good. What's going on?
Yeah,
So how did you
I've been waiting 30
digest
minutes.
this affidavit?
Oh, I know, right? Well, I barely looked at it. I was only on like 8 hours yesterday.
Yeah, there's a lot in here.
Yeah.
You just got on, but I spent an hour and 15 minutes before I came on live, went through every page, and the audio didn't take.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Didn't take. And I know what it is now. I know exactly what I did. I didn't hit myself add to stream. So it just records is me flipping pages. That's it. It happens.
Nice.
What are you gonna do? But I went line by line. I'll have to do it again. I'm just not doing it again today.
Yeah. I did an entire interview one time, and then I literally 45 minutes into it, I was like, I didn't hit record.
So crazy.
Had an incredible conversation with someone. It was very free flowing. Never recorded it. So I was like, can we start again? And you can't replicate that kind of stuff, but how's your little boy? How's everything going?
Everything's good. He's good. Head's good. No issues. My son took a ball to the head at school yesterday. That's why I was missing an eye. Take my guy to get checked. But thankfully he's fine. He's good today. He fell asleep with me last night. We're watching TV together. He wanted to spend time with Dad. He was scared. I mean, listen, I get it. He was very scared. Steph is going to pop up because she just wants to go over. Steph, I sent it to you. She wants to just go over quickly about Dylan, about why she feels that she didn't call 911. But I don't know if were you listening at all or no when you were driving?
No, I was not. I literally popped in just to make sure you were on, and then I said, then I got home as soon as I could.
No, it's no problem. I went over what I was. So I'll say it. Crime scene to courtroom. Me and him talk all the time, and what I got in November, I sent to him on December 3rd, and we were just talking about it. We were talking about it last night. He goes, and I took pictures of it, just because people will say that's not true. Yeah. How about Dylan having a shadow figure? Possibly there was some kind of hallucinogenic possibly involved. But this came from people that were very close that possibly were there that day.
Okay.
So the whole thing is that what I got within 2 weeks, no way was factual. Most of it was all factual.
Yeah.
That he was possibly wearing a balaclava mask. That's why you don't hear her talk about his hair, only his eyebrows.
Yeah.
So he had just this part open.
Right.
Scary stuff, man. What do you?
I mean, I have to admit, I was not expecting to read that when I read it, and so I mean that to me was, and then I read it and that putting myself in her shoes, I was like, that was the first thing that stood out to me. I was like, how terrifying. I was like, and then for her and Bethany to be maligned the way they have been, for what I was like, those girls have gone through trauma, especially Dylan. That it's going to take a lifetime. Their
life's never going to be the same.
No,
they're never going to be the same. They're gonna be fearful in the middle of the night.
Right.
I'm gonna let Steph on really quick.
But then I also think I do understand. Naturally, the first thing I did think to myself is like, how do you wait then for all those So I think that's natural to question it, but I think there's I think there's rational reasons for it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely probably more. There's more to come, I'm sure.
Right.
Steph, are you here? Stepha? I think you're muted. I can't hear you. Kath, I don't think he's killed before. I think this was his beginning of something.
Right.
Here she is.
Can you hear me now?
I gotcha.
Wonderful, wonderful.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to y'all.
I know you.
Do you know me? Your wild friend?
Yeah. One of them. CD's my other wild friend.
Yeah, I could see that. He's wild and crazy.
Yeah.
So
to be tamed these days.
I like your haircut though, TD. Sharp looking.
Thanks. Thank you.
So I don't want to get in the middle of you guys going through the affidavit. So I'll just kind of say what I wanted to say, because I know there were a lot of people that were kind of giving Dylan some, grief because she didn't call
shit, which is it's uncalled for. No matter
it
what,
is.
it's uncalled
And
for.
if people were educated a little bit, I think that they would understand what happened in that moment. And our brain, listen to me. I have to go all educational because I come from a psychiatric background. But the brain is not wired to like make you happy. The only thing the brain is wired to do is to make you survive. So that's the brain does weird, abnormal things to make you survive. So when you're in a trauma situation, the brain, there's 4 main trauma responses: fight or flight, which we all know. There's freeze, and then there's fawn, FAWN. When we freeze, sometimes our bodies go into a response called disassociation, detachment from the world, numbing. And so our brain, it's so overwhelming for us to handle it. We disassociate. We can't even be in that situation. So our brain goes to another place. She did not have the capability to think how you and I are like, oh my gosh, call 911 if we're in a car accident, or if we might hear something outside, something that's not as traumatic as looking at a killer in front of you. That is so too much for the brain to take. So it goes to a whole different place where it's safe, because it only wants to feel safe. That's its job, is to make you feel safe. That's why people do crazy things in the brain we don't understand. Right. So it's so upsetting to me to see people say that, because I'm like, I just want to shake them to saying, saying anything negative about her. And your trauma could be different than mine, to take us over the edge. Like, I might be able to handle, my brain might be able to handle that, but somebody's brain might hear somebody yell, help me. That might be too much for them to handle, for their brain, depending on how their chemistry, as well as their past, what they grew up with, and it's all about wiring. And so now her brain is permanently wired that way. Right. So she will have to go through special, she'll have counseling, obviously, but she'll have to go through special therapies to try to rewire what she saw that day, to make it less, to bring down that trauma, because every time she thinks about it, she's going to go right back to that moment. So they try to desensitize what that trauma was that day. So my heart goes out to Dylan. She's one of the ones that will continually live as the victim. Oh yeah. Because unfortunately the other 3 are gone, and their families have to live without them. Dylan lives with that every day of what they experienced. Oh yeah. Minus being obviously killed, but the moments before being killed, she gets to experience that over and over and over again.
I can relate to that, because I've gone on scenes where they're totally shut down. They won't even look at you. They're just in a different. Even in car accidents, I've had a guy get out of his car with the steering wheel intact and his arm was broken. He was holding. Yeah. Our bodies do create. Our mind. You're right. It goes into
brain's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I say really quickly? I think with both of your, I don't have the professional experience that either of you do as far as dealing with situations involving trauma. CD, I know because of your background with law enforcement, you've dealt with trauma situations that the only trauma situations I've involved myself or people I know closely. And Steffa, you've dealt with it personally and professionally. So I know, I don't think I don't think it's unnatural for people to question, like, why, I think I don't think anyone should feel like they're a bad person because they think, well, why didn't she call 911? Because, if you've not gone through those kind of experiences, you can't really understand. So, I don't want to beat anyone up also for questioning it, even though, I know, you're coming from a professional background with this stuff, but most people, when they look at it, they're thinking of it just from their own experiences. So I think it's natural to question those things, even if it's not fair, if that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree.
Right. You're right.
They might not
I
understand it.
I have to give a little more grace.
Yeah, they might not understand it, but at the same time, don't attack the girl.
No, of course.
Come on.
Right.
If you go on Twitter, just even if you type her name in, they're hashtagging her. It's sick.
Well, I was trying to even dispel last night. I was on a live and we were talking. People had questioned. They were like, "Oh, well, then if she was so traumatized, then why was she posting on social media in the time that she was locked in her bedroom?" So I I was like, I had to go back on and find the post because I knew what they were talking about. But those posts were all made earlier in the night before we knew the actual time of the incidents. So, I was like, so even that poor girl, she's had to go through so much, and she will continue. Both, her and Bethany, but Dylan especially. Even her boyfriend's been maligned. If you Google Dylan's name, her boyfriend there's articles about him that are just horrible.
Yeah, it's true.
And the guy and the poor guy had nothing to do with any of it. Just a kid that lives, or a guy that lives, in the area. But
I had seen a comment in there from somebody that had said if she didn't see the murder, she didn't see blood, she didn't see the knife, why was she traumatized? Think about it, being in the dark in the middle of the night and someone in your home that looks at you with a mask on and is coming at you but does not kill you.
Yeah.
What that does to your brain. Well, I guess you wouldn't know what it does to your brain, but what that would do to you. People respond in 4 different ways. And one is flight or fight, freeze, and fawn, which I'm not going into fawn because we could be here forever. It's basically people pleasing to get out of it. But when you are frozen, you can disassociate, which is very common for anybody. That's like trauma with little kids. They disassociate. Right. And that's how people can end up in their adult lives finding out they have disassociation from, trauma at a young age. But it's the brain's natural way to disassociate. And we all disassociate at times. Like when someone's screaming at us, we might, we just don't, we're like, and we just think about something else. But disassociation for them is, I'm not even in this moment right now. And they don't know that they're disassociating because they're not there. They're not even there. So they cannot consciously make a decision to say, I'm scared. Something bad has just happened. I'm going to pick up my phone to dial 911. So they don't have the physical capability to do that. Think of it as somebody that is paralyzed and they're not able to pick up their phone. So they might be they know that needs to be done. Okay, I guess that's a bad analogy. They don't have the physical capability to do it. And that's the only way I can explain it. Is there's no physical, that they are not there to make that decision. Because
can I ask a question, Steffa? My understanding, and again, I don't have a professional background in this, but my understanding is we base our responses off of our experiences, right? So if you go through something and you then usually respond to it based on things that you've learned in your past. But sometimes when something happens that is so outside of the realm of anything, that's when it can throw you right into this disassociative state, right? Or am I off base there?
Okay, repeat that again. I was reading
Like,
somebody's comment
like normally
asking me.
we base our responses off of our experiences, correct? So like, if you have no way to then base your brain has no way to like cope with something based on previous experiences, it's easier for your brain to throw yourself into a disassociative state.
Right, because it's not like every day that you're seeing somebody coming at you with,
Right.
You've never experienced anything like that. And
or even if you were abused as a child, like like you would have some sort of mental, like DNA that like would then aid you in how, whether it be healthy or not, but how your mind coped with that, right? Okay. And is there a difference between compartmentalization and disassociation? Sorry, I don't mean super psychological, but
yes. Think of men. Y'all departmentalize all the time. Disassociation is going to a totally different place.
Okay.
And women in labor often do that. Like because if they don't have epidurals and the pain is so great, they'll go to like another, I hate to say the word dimension. It's not a dimension, but they'll go to another place to try to help with that pain. Like, about mindfulness and people meditating in the middle of labor. And you're thinking, how do they do that? It's because they're able to, they're trying to get, their brain is trying to feel safe, get out of that pain. So it will do whatever it takes to be out of that situation. So, and we can't explain the brain. The brain's going to do whatever it wants. So we're thinking with rational brains. After a certain point, there is no rational brain left. The rational brain side of the brain is gone. All the irrational side takes over to be safe and to survive. That's our genetics. Back in the day, that was what we did. The smallest, we wanted to live. So if we felt danger, that we just wanted to survive. So we did whatever we had to do to survive. Well, our brains are still wired that way. And people I see in chatter saying, oh, how does she know? Because if you educate yourself, it doesn't take much to go educate yourself to find out these things. Unfortunately, before I even became a nurse, I had to educate myself on these things. But so it didn't take much. I mean, I had, obviously professionals helping us with that. But then when I became a nurse and I was a little more understanding because I had educated prior to becoming a nurse. And you can always tell the new nurses, not knowing. We've gotten way off topic. I'm sorry. Just go to the basics, just learning the basics to understand, take it as it is. It's what the brain does. She did nothing wrong. Her brain did exactly what it was wired to do. Right. And it will not take anybody, a psychologist, a basic therapist could go on the stand and explain this because it's not rocket science.
I would like a business card that says basic therapist.
What I'm saying is you don't have to have a psychiatrist with all, and I'm sure they will because they're going to want to have as much evidence. But for the defense to come on and say, oh, she did this because blah, 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 any psychiatrist is going to eat that alive for a defense because this is basic psychology stuff that you can look up online in medical books. It's not anything that has taken somebody in 10 years of research. This is just what the brain does that we already know. So that's all I'm saying. So, yep. That's all I have to say about that. So hopefully I hope somebody gets a little bit out of that can understand that why she did what she did, because it is, and there's no limit on how somebody might stay into disassociation. I
never realized how long people can stay. I never realized how long that a disassociative state can last.
Yeah, some people days. Luckily, she didn't go days. Well, we don't know. We don't know if she was disassociated. We don't know who made that call. We don't know if it was her or the other roommate. It didn't say in there, did it?
I don't believe CD might know, but I don't believe it said. I mean, I know that they've reported that the call was made from one of the surviving roommates' phones, but that I don't believe it was made by one of the surviving roommates. You know, and again, we don't know. So, you know, we don't know. You know that she's been diagnosed as going into a
No.
dissociative state. You know, we're just speculating as well because of what the wording in this was when it said she went into a frozen state, and I think you, from a professional background, are just trying to help people understand, you know, what could have caused someone to wait 7 hours to, you know, go out of
Correct.
the room.
Like freezing, it's where the body stands still and we don't move forward or backwards. We don't do anything. That's what the definition is. And there is a healthy response, which is mindfulness and stillness. The unhealthy response that the brain does is disassociation, detachment from the world, completely numbing, isolating, and suppressing the feelings. Those are the response in the 4 trauma responses.
That's like my family motto. I'm kidding.
So this is not, I'm not making this stuff up on, you know, the whim to give this girl excuses for what she did. This is truly researched basic psychology of a trauma response. This is not just junk science. This is what the brain does. This is what we know.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. People are saying, oh, you're making excuses for excuses. Are you kidding me? I'm sure that girl would have loved to have a hero at that moment.
Right.
Love to have had a hero at that moment. I know when I went through a trauma, my daughter texted me and said, do you hear him outside? And I said, don't text me. He might hear the text. And I did that on a text message. And we sat in our beds for 2 hours.
Really?
Because we were terrified that he might hear the text message of the text going back.
Well, you know, so, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you know, I mean, we're talking about all this, you know, but I just realized, you know, for anyone that might not know, I mean, there's 160 people in the chat. For anyone that might not know, do you want to talk about your like, you know, what your professional background is in this, and maybe any of your personal experience, just so people have an understanding of that, you know, what you're talking about? Because I heard I saw a comment that someone said this lady knows no more than anyone else, you know, as far as, you know, but I was like, you do have a professional background in this. So did you want to tell people what that is, or no? Steph, are you muted?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, I hit the side button on my phone.
I was like, apparently no.
Okay, so I raised a child with mental illness, and her traits started coming out at 8 years old, and at the time we did not know why. Thank you, Kath. Thank you. She's a retired psych nurse. She's spot on. Thank you, Kath. I appreciate that I have one person that's educated on the psych piece. And we did not know why. We did not know that trauma had happened at that time. Her trauma was not voiced. She did not have remembrance of it till she was 15. All we knew is we were dealing with the symptoms of what had happened, and they were not pretty symptoms. And she had multiple inpatient stays trying to get her medication properly, getting her properly medicated, which takes a lot, and lots of treatment. So that was how it all started. Well, one day Stephanie decided to be a nurse. No, I'm just kidding. So I became a nurse. But I did the medical side, and those of you in Kath might know is that there are usually a medical nurse and a psych nurse. They don't like to go back and forth as they should. But I went on more on the medical side, but I had such a psych background from dealing with it with her that I learned a lot of coping skills, and I learned what the brain does and why it does it. So anyway, with that, I then went into drug and alcohol nursing. And so I did drug addicts that were coming off,
Right.
off drugs. And that was an experience. But I was able to take what I knew from psych and what I had learned from an amazing psych nurse that I had worked for or worked with, and learned how to handle psych patients, and how they do what they do and what they will do to try to get you to manipulate you.
Okay.
So, and how to tell when a psych patient's manipulating you. Sometimes they're really good and you can't tell. And when the brain is actually doing what it's supposed to do. So, anyway, when I was reading that from her, it was like textbook to me. When I was reading the affidavit, I'm like, well, of course that's what she did, because her brain even said the word freeze. And part
Right.
of the freeze response is disassociation,
Right.
detachment from the world.
At
So,
least the police officer said that.
yeah, the police officer said that. But
So,
she was, I mean, the FBI, it wasn't like she changed her story.
yeah.
It said in the interviews that it was, she had been interviewed by the FBI and MSP, and I'm not sure if they said ISP as well. I can't remember in that part of it, but doesn't. But the FBI has a pretty good.
And
you can usually tell.
And they had two behavioral analysts on this pretty much from the beginning. The FBI did. I mean, I can also imagine. I mean, just from even if you look at it from a logic, like you haven't gone through a trauma. I mean, this girl like not only has like experienced her like reputation being questioned, being accused of things, her boyfriend being accused of things, but even little things as far as like the misinformation of. I mean, until yesterday, I mean, I was under the assumption that this girl was on the first floor.
Oh yeah.
I mean, which we talked about for the last month and a half about questioning as far as like, because I'd seen so many social media pictures where I'm like, her bedroom is on the second floor. Why is she on the first floor? So, I still don't understand why that was kind of, the like narrative all along. But then she's also been able, for whatever reason, not been able to, even really say anything about her experience or anything. She's not able to defend her character or even talk about her experience really to set the record straight. So she's just kind of had to go through the last now 7 weeks with not only going through the trauma of her 4 best friends dying, but then also having all of these things come out about her that aren't true, or and then now it's even amped up more so because now there's even more people that are aware of her and questioning her actions. So it just makes me feel so much more empathy for her.
And we don't know when she went downstairs. If she's in disassociation,
it doesn't sound like she ever did. I mean, it says in the affidavit her bedroom was on the second floor. I mean, for whatever reason, everyone assumed her bedroom was on the first floor.
But does it say what time she came out of her bedroom?
It never states that she came out of her bedroom. It just says that she looked out of her bedroom, 4 times, and then she finally locked her door. But I mean, it clearly states her bedroom on the second floor.
Yes.
So there's nothing in the affidavit at all about her having anything to do with a bedroom on the first floor.
Exactly. But when we don't know when she came out, and Kath just said something that's really, she's the psych nurse. She said it may have taken her brain to process and remember what she saw. She may remember more as time passes. And that is so true, Kath. And when you were talking about my past, I had told you that my daughter's symptoms came out at age 8. She did not know the trauma she experienced, why she was the way she was. Well, I don't want to say that was why she was having the mental illness had started at age 8, because it doesn't usually start that young. She did not have any remembrance of what happened until she was age 15. And when she remembered, she was in a place and it all came out, and she was in the bathroom in the shower, and she fell in the shower, and it was not a pretty scene. So it can just remembrance can happen. And I even, with the trauma that I was telling you about with when I was in my room and she was in her room, this is as adult. I mean, this was only 2018 when this person was outside our door. This was a former relationship that I had been in, and I had broken off the relationship, and that person was outside my window, and Brittany's window is right next to mine, and she goes, he's out there. And I go, I know, this is daylight. There was no reason we couldn't have moved and called 911. But trauma, I am just now remembering things. She'll say, hey, Mom, remember when this, and this happened? And I'm like, oh my God, that did happen. My brain may have never remembered that unless she had sparked that memory into my brain. So it's kind of amazing what the brain can do.
Yeah. But like I said, whether it be healthy or not, right?
Yeah, it's not healthy. And I don't want to do something when she'll say stuff. I'll go, please stop. I'm starting to have a panic attack because I don't want to. I can't deal with that right now. You know.
For me, like I of course when I read this, I tried to formulate rational reasons why someone would wait the amount of time that she did, because honestly it was the largest question that came out to me when I was reading the affidavit, was like, well, one, what she experienced, and then two, what created like the reasoning behind waiting so long to then call 911, especially if speculatively that the back sliding door was then open. So I'm like, there's so many factors that go into it that the thing I kept coming back to, and again I could be completely wrong because I'm just speculating, but I was like, if I'm 20 years old, I'm like, could I rationalize the situation as it not being as serious as it is, and even if it makes no rational sense, but thinking to myself, it's a prank. They're in the Greek system. Was it is there something you could have told yourself that would make you think it's not as big of a deal as it is? You feel the natural sense of fear and alarm that you would, to make you lock your door probably, but not enough so that you then think, I would assume no one thinks their entire house is being murdered.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So could she have just literally just kind of disassociated to the point where she just was like, it's not as serious as what's happening, and that's what kept her from doing it, or from doing anything for several hours?
And think about it, she had just known that her roommate was up a few minutes before that. 30 minutes?
No, like minutes, like
yeah.
under 10 minutes.
Who thinks about that? When you are talking to, you hear stories all the time. I was just talking to him on what do you mean he's dead? I just talked to him yesterday, or I just talked to him this morning.
Right.
He can't be dead. He can't be dead.
We even know that, she thought she heard Kaylee playing with the dog. So I think, it's natural to think your mind makes these natural assumptions of what's happening. But, then when you see a masked person coming at you, is it possible that you can then think to yourself, okay, maybe it was a joke, a prank, maybe it was a frat boy, blah, blah, because we also know that, it's college.
Yep.
And that would not have been something outside of the realm of possibility. In the fraternity house I lived in, that would not have been something outside of the I can see someone doing that, wearing a ski mask and trying to freak everyone out or scare people. Clearly something legitimately made her fear everything enough to the point where she locked her bedroom door. But I guess, even if she might not know the answer to it, she's the only one that's going to be able to answer that question eventually. And she'll probably have to do so on the stand, sadly, because she'll probably have to relive this. Because if I'm a defense attorney, as much as we're talking about this, and you're explaining how it is, medically and, and psychologically, if I'm a defense attorney, I am going to zero in on the 7 hours or 6 hours that girl that nothing happened.
Yes. And then there's going to be a psychologist or a therapist or a psychiatrist, probably multiple ones, that come up on the prosecution and say, hello, this is what the brain does. And then,
Right.
so they're going to have it on their side too, of actually, this is what was normal. This is what the brain naturally does.
Right.
And this, so that is one thing that she has on her side, is that was actually normal for the brain to go abnormal
Right.
in that
It
situation.
won't stop her from having to go through the trauma of sitting on the stand and having someone
Yep.
blind. And it
and-
doesn't guarantee that 12 people on a jury aren't going to understand it, or that they are going to understand it.
So I'm sure that they will have and I pray that they have the witnesses up there that can break it down in layman's terms. And because I'm not a teacher. I just, you know what I mean? So for me to explain it, and I'm not on panel showing, I'm not on panel giving like, what's the word I'm looking for? PowerPoints and all of those things. And, where I'm backed by all of that, at this moment, because this was kind of spur of the moment. But I thought about even doing that. And because I don't know if anybody knows, and I'm not here to promote anything, but I have a channel that my channel was built for mental illness for my daughter and I. She's now 27. So I come from a mental illness as a parent, and she comes from mental illness as a child, and what the experience is like, and what families can do to make things better, from our trial and error as a family.
Right.
And but then it turned into true crime with Delphi. So but I thought about having Brittany on there and discussing this, to explain what, how she had forgotten for all those years. I
dropped your link in the chat, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And I'm not here to get subscribers.
I know you're not.
I just thought I would kind of mention that I thought about doing that, to like maybe give a PowerPoint and explain it like more in layman's terms to help people understand it.
You should do a video. You should do a video, kind of, from what your experience is, as far as like, what and to help people understand, think what Dylan may have experienced or may have gone through.
Right. And yeah, we don't know where. We don't know anything except what's in that document. And there's so much missing in that document, although it is very detailed for I was surprised that much was in there, to be honest.
I wish CD were on right now, because I was like, if only the Delphi affidavits had been written like these. I was like, to me, this was, I don't have the law enforcement experience that CD does, clearly, or any, but I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I was expecting this to be so heavily redacted, and really, with the exceptions of phone numbers or, a few very like personal details, I thought this was an exemplary way of doing a PCA, because, they were even, they even just rather than, putting giant marks through everything, they used the initials of the witness granted they're legal adults, but, this thing wasn't blacked out halfway through every little line, there are very, very few actually, parts of the affidavit that are missing any information other than a few names and phone numbers and things like that. So I thought this was an incredible way to do an affidavit. So I have to give the Idaho police, or whoever, the Moscow police, the Idaho police, everyone, the most kudos possibly, because I think they did an incredible job with this investigation.
100%. And just 2 weeks ago, we're all like, come on. And really, if you think about it, most crimes are not solved. Like within a year, it's considered pretty good. They had this bad boy done in what, 2 months?
Less than 2 months.
Less than 2 months.
Less than 7 weeks, technically. Like right shy of it.
And to see how they were amazing how they pulled the car and the phone in the same place at the same time, and with the video with the car, how they linked all of it together in the same place. I am very curious on how the defense is, what their defense will be. And I've been looking to see online, and if anybody in chat or Adam, if you have seen anything where they have interviewed any like defense attorneys that, that are,
Yeah.
good. Like, I'm sure Jose
Mark
Baez isn't on there, but where
Mark
they can.
Marcos has been on several times on.
Oh, he has?
Yeah.
And did you know what he said? What kind of defense he might say? Of course, I know they don't have all the information, but I'm just curious.
I mean, I think that's speculative. I mean, I've not heard. I'm trying to think if I've heard. I mean, I know that I've heard specific things defense attorneys have said they could point towards. But I can't. I can't right now. I'm coming up blank. But I mean, I know. I think personally, I think that the defense team, or the defense attorneys, the fact that they hired a very reputable forensic expert to recreate the crime scene for them, that spent 6 hours on the day that that we know Bryan was being flown back to Idaho, at the house, doing their own kind of recreation and assessment. I'm assuming CD might know better than I, but I mean, I thought that gives us a little bit of a clue to the fact that this is not something that that as of this point I doubt that he's going for a plea. Plus, I think the narcissistic in him would refuse to do that, even if presented with DNA evidence. So I think that gives us a little bit of a clue as far as the fact that they're at least looking into how hard they can fight, and that they're willing to fight if they're able to.
It'll be interesting on how they can pull this. At least when it came to like Casey Anthony and how she got off, they did not have this kind of evidence of because we didn't have this kind of forensics yet.
Yeah.
But this is, I just wonder how they will get any. I if I was the attorney, I would just say, hey buddy, you need to just plead guilty and save your life. When I was reading,
I don't see that happening.
I know, but just thinking logically with my logical side of the brain, rational side of the brain, I just think, again, we don't have all the information. I'm just going by what's on that PSA, but I to me, it was an amazing affidavit. It was. I don't know. Do you know who Emily Baker is? She is a former prosecutor.
Of course I know who Emily Baker is.
Well, that's who I read. That's how I read this. I wanted to see what she said, because she was able to come from a human
side. She talked about it?
I'm sorry?
She did. I didn't know she was covering it.
Yeah, she did it when it came out. She did it yesterday.
For anyone that doesn't know, Emily Baker is a former LA prosecutor who is who does a lot of she's a YouTuber, and she does a lot with pop culture, a lot mainly, and some true crime as far as from a lawyer standpoint. But she's fun, and she's kind of like crude, but like she's got a fun personality, and she's really loving. She was huge during the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. She got like I think 700,000 YouTube followers from that. But sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but yeah, that's who Emily Baker is.
Yes, so she's a former prosecutor, and she's smart, but she's down to earth, and I think that's why people love following her. So she broke it down like step by step, and she would say, for my human side of the brain, I think this is this and this, but my prosecutor, and then she would say the prosecution could use this and the defense could use this, and it was really interesting listening to her.
The law doesn't necessarily, like what's legal doesn't necessarily mean logical. You know, it's hard to separate those sometimes. because we can look at something and be like, oh well, naturally, how could you not think this is the case? But then when you look at it from legal terms, it can be a different story. And I'm sure CD can say the same thing. When you look at things from a law enforcement standpoint, you have like as a father, husband, everything, you have a human brain. But when you look at things from an officer standpoint, they have to think differently, just like you do in psychology.
And where that really comes into play is we have to treat, in nursing, and I don't know if there's any other, Kath is still in here, we have to treat every patient with dignity, respect, and give them the same, save their lives just like everybody else. And the human side would say, when you have a child killer, child SAer, something like that, the human side might say, oh, forget it. Why is this guy live? Why would we want him to live? You know what I mean? On a human side. But the nursing side, she was talking about how we have to it's different. You have to learn to have two separate, human and then your professional side.
Right.
But as a nurse, you would give any kind of criminal the exact same loving care that you would give a any criminal. So you're going to try to save their life just as much as you would a priest.
Which is hard, like if I look at it from from my, like if I look at, like for me, the first thing that, when you said that, the first thing that came to mind is, I'm like, how could I want to treat a school shooter the same way I would a victim, but I understand what you're saying. And and that's, I think, that's a good example of having to do, treat people the same way.
Yeah.
I know, even having my mother's in the medical field and just having that background alone, I mean, you almost look at injuries and things like that. I remember as a kid, like, I never got the warm, compassionate part of because, my mother was like, no, you're going to be fine. My arm kept hanging off, and it was like, no, that's not broken. Because, you're able to disassociate, and I'm not using that in the same way we were with Dylan, but from the human part of yourself to the medical part, because you kind of have to when you're in that field, I think, just like you do in law enforcement. I mean, if you let, every single time you have to go give someone bad news, kill you, then, then you could never be in that profession. Even if your human brain tells you to react in a human manner, right?
Yes.
Or am I wrong?
You are 100% right. And that's funny that you said that about your mom, because nurses are known for, oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I know you have a temperature of 102 or 103, but you're fine. But my mom was kind of like that, but because she was an ICU nurse, she would be like that when it came to like strep throat and stuff, like how your mom was. But then
and my mom,
but because she was ICU nurse, she would see people and she'd be like, oh, your eyes are yellow, you have liver this, and she would, she would go to the other side, which is interesting because my daughter, when we found out about the MRSA thing.
Were you the firstborn?
Yes. I'm the firstborn. So yeah, it's really interesting that when depending on what type of nursing that you're in, that can play another part. She'd only noticed the big things when things were like catastrophe, but the things that probably should have been addressed in the other areas, she was like, you're fine, no problem. But when it was big stuff, boy, she was on it. And just like with my daughter, Brittany, my mom is obviously retired ER ICU nurse, but when Brittany got MRSA, she was on it, and thank God, or she would have lost her foot. But she was like, oh, she's got striations, and I would have never thought to go looking for that, but my mom did, and Brittany was in surgery within like 2 hours. So she's saved her foot, in my opinion.
Thank God. Not to change the subject, but I feel like we've gone off topic. So
That's my ADD. Sorry.
I know, same. I'm like squirrel, but and I know CD will be back in a minute. But so I mean, other than as far as like what Dylan experienced with this situation, did you have anything? Is there anything else that stood out to you in the affidavit when you read it, or when when you heard Emily D. Baker talk about it? That like what were like the top things that stood out to you in it?
Well,
for whatever reason.
Oh my gosh, there was so much. One thing that kept happening is she'd be like, oh, wait a minute. This is not going to look good for the prosecution. And then she'd read more and she'd be like, oh, okay, Emily, just keep reading and you'll see more evidence. But she was shocked because we had that 3 to 4, just like everybody else, how we were told the 3 to 4 was the time of death, that they were killed. And I remember last night when you were talking about, we were told that.
Right. To me, that was strategic. The same way.
Yes.
The same way 2011 to 2013 was strategic.
Yes. I thought that was amazing because I know in his narcissistic brain, he's going, ha 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 ha, I've gotten away with it. They don't know anything. And they were on you, buddy.
I mean, in my opinion, November 29th is the date they knew who he was. And from then on, it has been them building a case against him. I don't think they had the evidence yet to back up the fact that they knew who he was. But I think that it was November 29th is the day they knew who he was. Well, I mean, it says it right there in the affidavit. So, I mean, it's not like I'm some genius from thinking that. But
is that when, and didn't you mention last night that was kind of when they stopped talking to the media so much?
I mean, it's around this. I mean, if you look back at the time, it's around the timeline that they stopped doing as many press conferences. They stopped. It was actually a little after, but their messaging definitely kind of changed course a little bit, which could have just been the fact that it was 2 full weeks after the crimes. So I mean, I know that all of that has to kind of change, and I know CD could probably talk about that a lot more about how that works with law enforcement. But I do think that it was very strategic, and I think that they actually, if you want to talk optics, for all the criticism they got, I think that they utilized the public. I mean, I don't think any police department could be prepared for what they experienced with 36 employees, in the entire department. But the way they were able to pivot and utilize the public in the manner that they did, I think was brilliant. As granted, now I feel like there was a ton of collateral damage. Not that law enforcement had any part in that, but I mean, I feel like that if you went to the University of Idaho and your name is Jack, you've not had a good couple months.
True. He should be vindicated.
And like especially Jack DeCour, both of them, Jack S and Jack D, Jack D, because of the trauma, having been in a relationship with Kaylee and then to have been accused of what he's been accused of. I mean, he is, as much as Dylan, I think, has gone through hell. And I can't imagine what it's going to take for someone, in that state to find a way to kind of make their life normal after this. So I really, really pray for them.
I knew something that I kind of wanted to mention. My niece goes to Washington State. She lives a mile from Bryan.
Really?
She does. And so we had our Christmas with her on New Year's Eve. And so I went over there with so many questions.
Right. Because I missed you messaged me and I didn't see it after the fact.
I was like, I think I'll use her. I'll just call her L, because I was like, can we do an interview, bring you on the YouTube channel? She's like, why? And I was like, L, because people want to know, like, what it was like being there during that time, because as her mom was explaining it, she's not my biological niece. Her mother has been my best friend since we were like 5. We were neighbors, and we went to nursing school together. We have a special bond, and now she's about to marry my cousin. So that's how she's always called me Aunt Stephanie, and I've always called her my niece since she was born.
That's how I am to my best friend's kids.
Yes. So I was like, I would love for you to come on, explain what it was like at that time. And her mom had been out there visiting. I'll just call her Lex because that's what her nickname. And I was like, my friend had been out there the week before this happened, and she had gone into Moscow, and they go there, she said, because it's like a quaint town with all kinds of like
Are you gonna say better shopping?
Yes. The shopping is like boutiques. Like she was saying, like, just,
I mean, you know that's what he said, right?
Yes, I know. So when I saw that, I wanted to send her a message and be like, hey girl, blah blah blah. So she and I were obsessed. We had our little Christmas thing with family, and I was supposed to go home because I don't like to drive. I don't want to be on the streets on New Year's. So, but we were obsessed, and I had no idea that she was even into this, but she had become so immersed in it because her daughter lived out there. And she's like, Stephanie, she's like, it's so close. Like, it's almost like being one. She's like, it's separated campus, but they just intertwine together. So she's like,
oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's 9 minutes away.
Yeah, from the houses. But I mean, there is a bike path between the two campuses.
Back. Sorry, everybody.
Hey, CD, I'm sorry.
No. So I had to handle. I had a tree fall in my house December 23rd, and that was insurance. I had to handle that.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I will step down now that CD is back.
Thanks for being here, Steph. Thanks for coming on and explaining that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, no problem.
Definitely helps people take it in perspective.
Right.
So I can't wait to hear your explanation going through this, and you all have a very blessed day.
You too.
You too.
So sorry, buddy.
Oh, you're fine. I'm glad Steph was here. I would have been kind of like twiddling my thumbs if not.
You've been juggling the chat. I have questions thrown at you or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
everything okay though?
Yeah. No, everything's fine. What do you think of him at least 12 times, at least being in the area of the house, his phone pinging? That's not counting how many times he had his phone off.
Yeah. I mean, I think the same thing everyone does, this guy, presumably from what we know, moved there in August, and from whatever reason between August and November got so fixated on something about one or more of those victims.
Yep.
That Definitely. He, or this house, the house, I guess, we don't 100% know.
I don't think it was what's the house fixation? You know what I mean?
No, I know. I don't either, but I'm just saying, I have to.
No, I get it. I mean, you have to say it because they're not given that piece yet. Right. But her, Kaylee's father has, he kept letting things out of the bag. You know?
I think, that all of the families, all of those families are, my heart goes out to all of them, but the fact they've been so front and center, it's hard not to focus on them. And to hear, Stephen, his wife, I can't think of her name right now. It's his wife. My heart breaks for them, but I'm like, I hope that if I'm ever a father, that I'm that kind of a father. But not that I ever want to be presented with that.
No, listen, you gotta be strong for your family, and you have to make sure justice is served. And believe me, he's grieving hard behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
He has to put that, that brave face has to be there.
For me, one of the things that'll I won't forget from this case, even years later, when I'm sure certain things will have faded from my memory, I won't forget him making that statement about someone needs to be an alpha, and and I don't want it to be me, but if it has to be, it'll be me.
Yeah. It's necessary.
Yeah, but no, I do think that 12 times. I think that clearly he was so fixated on one of them or more of them that I don't know what clicked or what made that happen, but for whatever reason it did.
Because he wanted them to say more.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as Bryan, for whatever the reason that it clicked, something clicked, and he got fixated, and that's a short amount of time to go from moving somewhere to
he left sometime end of June.
Right.
We don't have an exact day that he left Washington, but remember December 13th, he was in Colorado.
And we don't.
Weird.
We also don't have an exact date that he. I mean, we know that he started classes on August. Was it 22nd?
Yeah,
21st he got pulled over. 22nd he started classes.
Yeah.
The phone thing is from June, but that doesn't necessarily mean he was there. We don't know when he moved.
No, But my question is there a secondary phone that they're not talking about that he got this new line to move out to Washington with?
Right.
He definitely had a phone before that.
Oh, you know what? I have that. I have his phone number. I should see if that's a Washington area phone number. I didn't even think to do that. To look at the area code.
Yeah, it'd be good to look at.
Yeah, I'll have to look. I have like 6 phone numbers associated with the family, but that one's on there.
It's crazy how when you read this, a single source of male DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath.
What do you think about that? So, because I talked about it last night.
The sheath was definitely wiped down to not have any other DNA on it.
Oh, wow! I didn't think about that. About the fact that neither of the victims.
It says single source, so there's just one little speckle of DNA on that sheet that they got.
And so, my assessment of that was that it was prior DNA.
Yeah, it could have been because I would think that he would. There's no other evidence of his DNA in the house that they've said.
And just logically, I can't imagine. I have to think he was wearing gloves. Do what he did.
So too. I would think so too.
So the fact to me the fingerprint being on the button would be an afterthought from a prior time when you were probably for whatever doing
messing
whatever.
With it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And think about it. The knife was right that the shop talked about that they asked about if they sold. K-bar style knife. That was.
But not the same as the person on Facebook.
Yeah, different than the person on Facebook. But there's somebody else on Twitter that's using that as that secondary knife is a secondary killer. Listen, seeing Chief Fry, I don't think there's anybody else involved. The weight of the world was off his shoulders when he said, we feel we have our guy. So I don't know. I don't know. And wasn't that purchased in October? He wasn't here in October.
Well, no, he was there in October, right?
No, it was bought in Jersey.
Oh, you're right. And I'm not going to accuse the guy. The guy may have thought he sold that. He may have thought that's who he sold whatever knife to, but he may have just been mistaken.
Might have been, it might have been somebody that kind of resembled him.
He could have. You live in the northeast. Bryan doesn't look abnormal for northern Pennsylvania.
He's just very thin.
Yeah, he is.
Very thin.
Yes, he is.
And that has a lot to do with his diet. I know people that went into a vegan diet, and it's amazing at how the weight they've lost and whatnot. It does serve a purpose.
Right. It just makes you homicidal. I'm kidding.
You never know. It could, there's a lot here. There's a lot with this. This is the mindset of this man is disturbing. He was hunting. He went there 12 times in 3 months of living.
That we know of.
Yeah. It could be a lot more than that.
And I think it's safe to say, he thinks he's so smart. He thinks that, he thinks we know from people that have said in the past that, he kind of has to be the smartest person in the room. He has to have control of situations. But clearly he made mistakes. So,
yeah. Listen, and I know people say like, oh, he took his car, but how else was he getting there? 10 miles away. It's not like he's going to walk there to go commit a murder. He's not going to rent a car, take an Uber. Those are going to be tracked in the end.
Yeah.
So he thought taking his car with PA plates and 5 days later swapping them, he thought that he was going to be safe. The issue is it took 3 weeks to get the plates.
Yeah.
So when they ran the Pennsylvania tag at his apartment, they also ran the VIN. And by running the VIN, they got the Washington state registration also. So they already had his plate for Washington before he even received it, because he got it December 5th. And they were at the apartment December 29th.
Well, so
the same day that they removed the cars from the house, which is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
16 days later, that's the day that they found his car. That could be that, they were questioning if one of the other cars in the driveway, maybe, I don't know,
Right. I mean, it's nice. I mean, it was. I mean, I mean, not to give anyone a pat on the back, but I was like, it was like nice to read in the affidavit that like the camera footage came from that camera that we all kind of like picked up on right away, that was there and then was not.
Oh yeah, right across the street. Yeah, right across the street. That,
it was.
I mean,
it was
they
like
were. It was on the. Yeah, it was on the light pole. But I mean.
And then it was gone, and so, but then it was back. So like,
well, because I think that type of camera that goes in the light has a disc card in it.
Yeah.
Those are just, it's getting power. It's getting a power source from the light, but you have to have a memory card, put into it.
So I mean, do you think? I mean, okay. So he's. I mean, we know this guy thinks that he's intelligent, and in some ways he probably is. I mean, we heard from his high school roommate when I was on your show last week.
Yeah.
That he was in the top 5-10% of the class. I mean, do you think that he?
Well, you got to remember, right? No matter how well he planned for what he was going to do in there, the adrenaline took over.
Yeah. So I was just saying, do you think?
Think about it. He went back. He went back to the house 9:12 to 9:21. He was outside the house in the morning. It might have been 8:30 in the morning where he realized he didn't have the sheath. That's where the adrenaline dump happened, where it really started coming down, and he's looking, thinking, where's the sheet? Where is it?
Right. Which to me, my thing with that was, I was like, I think he wanted to see if they found them yet. It's like, I think he wanted to see if there was a police presence.
It could be, but I think he was debating whether he was going to make an attempt to go in.
But there was there was nothing happening. So why not? Why didn't he make one then?
You had Jeremy walking his dog almost at that time.
Well, that's true.
There was activity going on, and I talked to Jeremy. I don't know if you weren't on yet. I talked to Jeremy last night about it, and I said, just think about how eerie and creepy it is that he, thankfully he didn't, but he might have pulled up to you and you're looking at this guy. He goes, yeah, it would have been a really scary encounter, Yeah. But Jeremy said he's never seen him in the area. He's never seen the vehicle in the area, because you know what? Cars go by, you're not really, think about if that car goes by with Bryan in it. You're not really going to look at it like, oh, that's odd for here.
And when you're in a college area like that, you don't look at things the same way. It's just how it is. It's not uncommon to see people you've never seen before when you're in a college area.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small college campus. I mean, my only thought was with, he's smart in some ways, but he's not in other ways. But clearly he had to have known. We live in an age when, I mean, he knew to leave, which, I mean, to me, it makes you as guilty as not that he left his cell phone at home. So it's like the only time his cell phone was off was like the time of the murders. It's almost incriminating as bringing your phone with you. But he had to have known there were cameras. And so I'm like, was it just that he was so brazen that he just thought he was smarter, that it wouldn't apply to him? Or
think about it. He went by the house 3 times. On the 4th time is when he tried to park the car and couldn't, and then does a 3-point turn.
Which alludes to a whole other thing to me, but
that's kind of like telling that he was so overly amped up he couldn't even park the car.
Right.
He was just, in his mind was a mission, and he wanted to get in that house.
Right. But even the 12 times he went prior to that, I mean, he knew there were cameras all along. So I mean, did his whatever?
Well, he probably didn't think that it was going to all get back to him. That especially on his prior history of going there. Because I think didn't he say something like that he would go to Idaho because they had better shopping or something?
Yeah, which Steph said the same thing while you were gone.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she said.
Yeah, I mean, that's a weird statement,
Which because Steph said her daughter goes to WSU, and they go go because they have boutiques and better. And I said, are you? And I said, I interrupted her. I said, are you saying they have better shopping? And she said they do. And I was like, oh wow, because I kind of thought that was him effing with the.
That might be, what everybody that, goes to WSNU knows. Idaho has better shopping. You just take a, quick 10-minute ride in.
Yeah. I mean, the 12 times, and I mean, what do you think? I mean, the driving by the house 4 times that night thing. Like him being unsuccessful in the way he was trying to park, it made me question. I'm speculating 100%, but was he under the influence or something?
It could be possible.
I mean, I know it's hard to imagine your motor skills not being on point, than to go and commit the crimes he did. But I mean, he couldn't park the car.
Yeah, couldn't park the car.
Like
that just tells you how, no matter how that's why I feel this was definitely his first time doing this.
Yeah.
You could think you're going to have control, but it's just not there when you get there.
I think it all went out the window the second he got
there. Yep. Why he didn't attack her is Dylan is very strange. I think maybe he just had nothing left.
That's what to me it either mean. I mean, that's what I've said all along is that, I mean, because you have to imagine the physicality of what. I mean, no one wants to put themselves in his shoes, but I mean, imagine the physicality of what it would take to do what he did.
Yeah, I think he was in the house altogether for 9 minutes.
And like I said,
that was 9 minutes of him going full bore.
So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Not to mention, he did all of that, the physicality of it all, in 10 minutes or less.
Yeah.
So I mean, and you look at the adrenaline and the anticipation, all of it that would have gone in his head prior to it, that rushed through in those moments. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he had to have felt like an exhaustion afterward, or he didn't see her. To me, those are the only possibilities. Either he didn't see her, or he was too exhausted to deal with it.
And also remember how the FBI agent, they put the car out on the 25th. They had his car within 4 days.
Yeah, they had his car.
The FBI agent. Puts out the 2011 through 2013, but realizes something in the video that it could actually be an 11 through 16. But Moscow police never puts that out because they already have a 15, and they feel that they might have their guy. So there's no reason.
I was talking about that last night on the show because Steph had brought it up again, that because I mentioned that I've thought all along that the 11 to 13 thing was strategic, that they never corrected that.
Yeah.
Because and I think that the 3 to 4 a.m. thing was strategic.
And you know what? I give WSU, the state police, the state university police, a lot of credit, because a lot of university, even New York State, the university police, they're underpaid. They wear the same uniform as like a trooper. They get paid nothing compared to a trooper. And the 2 officers that are named in the affidavit, they did a great job.
Yeah.
The one that was looking in the system, and then the one that went out to find the car. Great job. Yeah. Hell of a job.
Absolutely.
And taking the extra step to run the VIN to get the Washington plate, massive.
And he found it. It said he found it on the same day he queried it to me, which that was awesome. All the way around, law enforcement in this case has my utmost respect.
Yeah, even they did a great job. They took a lot of shit too. A lot of shit.
And they probably still will. But even
the corporal that was in charge with 4 years of investigative experience, but he's got a career as a military police officer.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just they really took a lot of heat and a lot of shit, and they weren't deserving of it. They really weren't.
Like I said earlier, I was like, I wish that I would, like, if I ever read another affidavit, which I'm sure I will in my life, I hope it's written in the same manner that this affidavit was written.
It's not. It's not gonna. It's just.
I know.
They poured it all in here. I'm sure there's a lot more they didn't.
But I mean, even the way they handled like the stuff that normally would be blacked out or redacted, they, they were able to, even just putting. I said I know they're legal adults, but they put like the witnesses' names in initials rather than just blacking out everything.
Yeah, no, they did a very good job. They really did.
But I mean, I don't think reading anything in this affidavit gives, I don't think it hurts the prosecution's case at all. Whereas that's always the reason, that's always the argument, that we have to redact everything so the case doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is all coming out anyway,
Right, exactly.
They wanted to make sure that everybody knew what they had. We got GPS pinpoints from his phone. We have his vehicle on camera. We have him driving by four times before he stops and gets out of his car. In the area 12, that's the GPS stuff. Then you have the bushy eyebrows, 6 foot tall, a skinny athletic build, seen by Dylan. Like, they wanted to make sure it was in here. The changing of the plates, they covered all bases.
Right. And then what do you think about I mean, I'm sorry to but what do you think about I mean, I know now it's now being questioned about whether the FBI is now saying they didn't direct those stops in Indiana. I mean, I think they had to have, right?
I don't know if they wanted to see his hands. I feel that the trooper would have went to the driver's side. He would have positioned his car correctly to get up close. I mean, you got the sun. You got
I think they just wanted to make sure he was in the vehicle. I think they were just.
You have his driver's license. You know exactly what he looks like. They've been watching him on and off since November 29th. I know who he is.
Yeah, no, but I think if you look at when he was the Colorado thing makes sense to me, because that probably was they probably stopped for lunch or something. When they get back in the car, I think they probably want to make sure he's still in the car. And then in Indiana, it was it was probably the next day.
And listen, I followed a lot of people.
Yeah.
With the one night I told you about last time, where we had the one guy stop, we had the trooper that was just working with us to make the stop. I told you we had audio in the car and everything, and he tried to pay off the trooper that was working. He's like, "Oh, there's only 5,000 there when there was 10." So once he did that shit, he had to be brought in. They ended up releasing him because we couldn't blow up our investigation for that. But it had to be documented. His money was counted, and they're like, "No, you have 10,000." He goes, "Yeah, I must have made a mistake. I thought I only had 5,000." But it just the whole thing was that I don't know why they'd have to verify who he was. I'm sure they had him on a wiretap. They had the vehicle tracked. They had FBI surveillance on him the whole way home. I don't know.
Right. And then I just thought it was interesting that they came out.
Listen, it could be possible. It could. Just to verify, by his license, possibly. Right. But
or even if it was the cuts, even if it was just check his hands, I'm just judging by what they said and asked during those stops. I'm I can't imagine getting pulled over twice in the same state and not even the first time. Okay,
I'll tell you a funny story.
But the second time you don't get a ticket.
I used to have to go to Albany for union stuff, right? And it's like every police department in the state. I might have been stopped. Me and there were 2 other drivers. Might have been stopped by the state troopers 5 times in the same state. It happens. It does happen. Oh yeah. Listen, the troopers are there to hunt you. They're hunting. They're
I'm just
radar
ticket that second time especially.
Well, I think the second time by him saying he was already stopped for I think the trooper, it was very noisy. So I think he thought they got a ticket. But it could be. They could. Why stop them twice within an hour of each other? That just doesn't make sense.
I thought it was 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. I thought the hour thing was mistaken.
I just don't know why they would stop him twice and bring up his hink level, on purpose.
Yeah, I don't know. I found it very odd. He never ran the driver's license. He looked at it. I'm I don't know.
See, the post is putting out that he cleaned his car extensively before the arrest.
See that? Who's putting it out?
Post.
Okay.
He was seen wearing surgical gloves several times before finally being collared.
Wouldn't surprise me. I think
his car inside and outside, not missing an inch, the source said. And he threw garbage in a neighbor's house.
To me, the fact that he got pulled over those 2 times in Indiana is probably what spooked him to the point that made him start wearing gloves in the grocery store and everywhere he went. I think when he got home to Pennsylvania, I think he realized that didn't add up, and then he was paranoid, and he probably started taking those precautions to the point where, it took them getting the trash for them to get a DNA sample. But no, that is interesting. I mean, I'm sure he tried to clean the car. I mean, because even if he cleaned himself, which I believe he probably cleaned himself up.
I don't think that car was ever going back to Washington after that.
No.
I think he was. I think maybe the parents called him for you driving back for the holidays, and maybe he was questioning it, and the father's like, I'll come there and we'll drive back together. He was figuring out how he's going to get the car home.
Right. I'm wondering if the plane ticket booked. I'm wondering if there was a plane ticket for him booked back to Washington. He never got the chance to take the flight, but I'm wondering if it was booked.
Yeah, because think about it. Even if you're home for 4 weeks, you're not going to take a car from Washington, drive it to PA, and drive it back to Washington all in 3 weeks.
Right, because again, not only that, his dad flew into Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he had to go from Seattle to Pullman. That's not a short drive. So he had to get from Seattle to Pullman to then get to, just to take that ride with him. You're going to spend far more on that than you would on the plane ticket. And
it sucks because his dad doesn't seem like a bad guy.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
And
very polite to the police. I don't think they had any clue.
I don't
that this was the case.
I mean, yes, could it be argued that they should have had some questions, but again, with the Dylan, your mind is capable of a lot of things. So,
but remember, they're looking for the car. His was a 15. They were looking for an 11 to 13. His was white. He might have said, I want to bring the car home until this cools down because I got people staring at me everywhere I go. I don't want to be hurt for no reason, and that could be the reason.
Yeah.
That could be the reason.
But I'm surprised that because we know of the seatbelt stop, and then there was the other one that we didn't know about on the October 14th, I believe it was.
Yeah.
The stop.
It's October 14th.
You might know this. Would those stops be applicable to the gag order?
Yeah, they're not going to release those body cams.
Okay, because I'm surprised that we haven't seen the body cam footage for those.
Yeah, I don't see them releasing. Indiana's a different story. That's a different state.
Did they release the body cam footage of the Indiana one after the gag order? The second one. It was technically the first one, but it was the second body.
Indiana doesn't really have to follow that, really. It's
they don't. Okay.
It's in regards to his arrest.
Right. Okay.
This was just a quick traffic stop. But I don't know if the police or Moscow are going to release it. I think one was the Latah County Sheriff's Office too.
Okay.
Corporal, I forget his name.
Was he caught on camera in Colorado, or was he pulled over in Colorado?
No, the Colorado. I think it was saying his phone pinpointed there, which is interesting. Why? What? I didn't even look at what's in that town, but why does that matter? Putting that in here, I'm trying to look. I'm looking for. I want to see what it said.
Right home. I think he and his dad. I think that was the first time he got. I think that's when he was driving back to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well, that was December 13th. Remember, right?
Yeah.
So, why did it take them 13th, 2.5 days, almost 3 days to get to Indiana?
I mean, that's look at the distance.
No, I know the distance, but you got two people in the car. You take turns driving.
No, I get that. I mean, I know when I went from North Carolina to California, I took over a week to drive it. But I'm just
going to look. I want to see what it says driving wise, how long it takes to get there. Hancock County, right? Hancock County, Indiana.
Yeah, because of course Sonny found something funny to think about that.
Washington. Let's see. I'm just curious to see what it says.
There was another location that I found to be the real anomaly in the whole situation.
What was that?
That would be Johnson, Idaho.
Yeah, right here. So it says, oh, really? It says, what did it say direction-wise? What did it just do? I got to go to Safari and do it that way.
When you think this time of year, if you're driving from Idaho to anywhere on the East Coast, you're going to take different routes depending on the weather.
Oh, definitely. But they were going to Indianapolis for something.
Yeah.
They were getting Thai food. They said it like 4 times. Thai food.
Right.
County, Indiana.
I have my own jokes about that, but I won't repeat them.
30 hours. So from Pullman, Washington to Hancock County is 30 hours. So so maybe they were doing 12 hours a day and stopping.
Right. What time of day was the one in Colorado? Because I mean, say you've been on the road 5, 7 hours, 8 hours. Here,
it's right here. Oh no, it hit on a police license plate reader, is what it did.
Right.
So it doesn't mean he was stopped. It just means the car got popped on the license plate reader.
All right.
It says investigators believe that Kohberger still driving a 2015 white Elantra because his vehicles were captured on December 13th, 2022 by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado.
Right. To me, that just means they
was
on the road.
What?
To me, that just means they had left for Pennsylvania already. Because if not, they're leaving for very little time for his dad to have gotten there, and
Yeah.
But the Johnson, Idaho. If you look at the affidavit where it talks about, I can't remember the time and date. But they talk about it in the affidavit.
That's what's weird. Loma, Colorado is halfway there. It's 14 hours, halfway to Indiana. So it's 30 hours total to Indiana. This is 15 hours, almost 14 hours, 26 minutes, right? So that was on the 13th.
Okay, so maybe
it took them 2 more days to go 14 hours.
Well, the first time
I'm talking 48 hours.
The first time was at 10 a.m.
Who?
The first time in Indiana was at like 10 a.m. though. So I mean, it was morning. So I mean, they presumably could have just gotten up and started the drive again. But I get what you're saying.
But no, but all I'm saying is that so they leave, right? They're on whatever time it was on December 13th. So it could be a maximum of 48 hours from that time to get 14 hours away to Indiana. That's just a long time. What were they doing in between? Were they going places? Like what were they doing? Is all I'm saying. That's a lot of time.
Maybe Bryan would let that drive.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, we know that law enforcement has to know what they were doing. So.
Oh, they're definitely being tailed. Definitely.
No, the thing I did find interesting, there were 2 different things I found to be kind of like, and maybe they're nothing, but to me, like from like a layman's standpoint, I found the hour and a half or hour and 10 minutes from the time that he was seen leaving the house till the time he was seen getting home.
I talked about that in the video that didn't record. Where the hell was he?
Right, where the hell was? Well, I mean, we know where he was.
I think it was like almost. What was it? Wasn't it 5:47?
Yeah,
he left at 4:20.
It's an hour. I think it's 5:20, 5:30 basically. I think it's an hour and 10 minutes basically.
It's just a very long time. Where the hell was he?
But in some of the places he was on camera footage make no sense because they're not in the area he should have gone. I mean, it's a 10-minute drive home.
Well, what he was doing, and it's called cleaning. It's called cleaning yourself. That's what. If you're a criminal, you clean yourself. You'll go out of the way to make like a track of yourself. That's normal in crime.
There is a state park near the area he was at, which I thought was interesting.
But think about it, right? That hour and 20 minutes, somewhere within that, they really need to see where the phone pinpointed.
They did,
and
we know.
No, I'm saying they should be checking to find the knife.
Oh, great. So, but then
because the knife probably never made it back to his house.
Right.
Is what I'm getting at.
That's what my thought was. So the 2 anomalies to me were that the hour and 10 minutes, and then on a different date, I think it was the 15th of November. He is on GPS an hour away in Johnson, Idaho.
Yeah, I saw that. What's in there? Does it say what's there?
Makes no sense. And to me, that I would either, like I said, there's that hour and 10 minutes that in between the crime and him getting home. Or Johnson, Idaho. That knife is in one of them.
If you think about it, that hour and 20 minutes, he's cleaning himself, but he also might have dumped the knife somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's what I said.
I don't think the knife because there's. he was real. I mean, I know people think he was trying to get caught. I don't see it. I think he was just starting to. He was going to become a serial killer.
Absolutely.
He's a mass murderer right now, but I believe he liked it. This is what he was. He's been working himself for this maybe 3 years. You know.
Right.
Think about how he schmoozed over that professor to help him get into graduate school.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree with you.
she's really. I mean, she was really in shock because she felt he was an amazing person, highly, intelligent, one of her best students she ever had, and it ends up being
It was
a mass murderer. You know,
which probably made him a good student in that field.
I'm trying to think. I think
but no,
D'Angelo.
that's
wait,
to
wait,
me, if I were law enforcement.
I mean, I gotta get this thought out of my head. Didn't D'Angelo get a degree in criminal justice?
He was a police officer for a short time.
But wasn't it very short though?
I mean, he was a patrol officer. I don't know the amount of time, but he was a patrol officer at one point. I don't know about his educational background.
What do you think of this guy had the balls to put in to try and get a job at Pullman Police?
It doesn't surprise me. I think there's
doesn't surprise me either, but it's so ballsy.
But that's who you don't get someone that thinks they're going to do something like this and then get away with it if they're not ballsy.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you a crazy story. Right? Let me tell you this quick story.
That knife has got to be between the hour and a half or hour and 10 minutes he was after he left the house, or in Johnson, Idaho.
Let me tell you this quick story, really quick. Then we'll get back to that because when it's on my mind about being a cop, I got to give it up. So one night I'm working 4-12, and I see this weird kid. You know, he's got to be 20 years old, and he's in the station, and he's just staring at me and I'm like, what is this kid staring at? So I get called in, and the lieutenant's like, hey, you're gonna take this kid out tonight. I go, I'm gonna what? He goes, yeah, he's gonna do a ride along with you. I go, why is he doing a ride along with me? He goes, oh, he requested you. I go, he requested you. He requested me to do the ride. I don't do ride alongs. You know, I was a narcotics guy. Like, you don't put a civilian with somebody who does what I do. You know what I mean? You put them with just somebody who's going to be in patrol and they get to experience a call and that kind of stuff. Yeah. They're like, do you mind taking him? No, that's fine. So what am I going to do? You want to come? You're going to see the real shit, you know? So I ended up locking up an entire car, four guys in the car, cocaine. There was pills. You know, this kid's eyes were like shooting out of his head. You know, he's like, "Oh, I majored in criminal justice psychology." About you, like the guy was totally like buffing out, like riding with me. Do you know that they made me take the kid out 4 more times?
What?
4 more times? Yeah, 4 more times. I had to give ride.
Was he the sergeant's son? Okay.
No, he just had a connection to some politicians.
Okay, that makes sense.
And
he was like down the wrong road.
He ended up becoming a cop.
Good.
And I said, you know, there's something wrong with him.
Oh.
You know, and he ended up losing his job.
Okay.
You know? But you know, he had a lot of issues. But I see not an identical character trait, but he was peculiar. He looked like Skeletor, where, you know, his face was kind of like Bryan's face, but they don't look alike. But he had the Skeletor sucked in face, you know. Just there was a lot off about him, and you could see it instantly. But he still was able to pass the psychological, and he got hired in a department, and you know, he only lasted a few years, but still, yeah, and you know, he could have killed somebody, you know, but. Yeah. It was just weird.
Chances are he would have, because
these ride-alongs and some of these people that go into criminal justice, they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Well,
to gain power.
Some people go into that field because they want that authority. They want that power.
They want the power. Yep.
You know, and I'm not.
You see it instantly. Let me tell you, that those are the people that I stayed away from. I was in an academy class of 1,700.
Yeah.
And you could tell right away who was just there because they wanted to. Oh, I'm officer. You know, not the way to go about things. You're here to.
It gives your profession a bad name, but no. But you know, I mean, there are a small percentage of people that go into that for for just like any profession, they go into it for
Well, the ones that were picked on, and then they, now they got the power, so now they're picking on people.
Yeah, it's that little man syndrome in a way,
Yeah,
as far as
it's true.
and as I said, it's not every police officer, of course, but it's you do get that some people that are drawn to that for that reasoning.
But I did find it so ballsy that this guy, put in, to get hired there because he was just, he just got there and he put in for this, he wanted to work there. Was it to, gain trust in the officers there? Like, was his plan to maybe start killing in Washington?
Well, my question with that,
Idaho.
My question with that though is, given his educational background and his intelligence, etc., what stopped them from hiring him? Because I don't
think they needed somebody for data analysis.
Okay, you think that's all?
You already have that. Usually,
I was like, I was like, I'm like, there are a lot of people in that field that probably aren't educationally as qualified as he would have been at that point. So I was like
usually in like the IT department,
okay,
like for data analysis stuff. Usually it's like kind of like a revolving door. It's yes, you have your set people that work there, but somebody who's injured that will go in that office. Somebody that's a female that's pregnant that can't work the road because for the whole 9 months they'll still go into IT and help out. So it's like a revolving door. So you really don't the whole thing is you want to limit. It's not like NYPD is different. There's a huge civilian civilian staff with NYPD, but elsewhere you want to limit, especially a small department like Moscow or Pullman.
Right, like Moscow had 36
in the building.
Yeah, Moscow had 36 employees. I think civilian and law enforcement.
Yeah, I think there was only 20, maybe 24 cops, 25 cops, including the chief, tops, maybe a couple more, but it's not a lot.
No.
But think about what Chief Fry said when his department was getting destroyed. He said, me and the top, his captain and the other guy had like 90 years between. They're all 30-year veterans. So yes, they don't process murders often. But again, Idaho State Police did the crime scene with the FBI. They knew that they couldn't handle that. It was too big of a crime scene. They
secured the scene and they did what
they secured it, got a search warrant, got the right people. That's the way you do it. There's no reason to go in there and make a fuck up. There's just no reason.
Yeah. I can't. And I said they have my utmost respect. Every single department that was involved in this has my utmost.
Hats off to them. The only thing that bothered me was the vehicles. That really bothered me because they scrambled. It seemed like snowfall came. They scrambled to get the cars out. They didn't even tarp them.
But I think luckily they probably are of little consequence.
No, looking now, it seems like there's none. But what if there was?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So I'm like, was there something that right off the bat that made them think they knew? Was part of it.
That was bothersome, and also one of the main businesses.
To me, it was that camera. I think they knew nothing happened in the front of that house.
Yes. That's true. That's true. That could be the reason for it. But the scrambling with the multiple tow trucks when it snows coming down, I don't know why they at least tarp the vehicles. Tarp them. Because they preserve what's there.
Even if they knew nothing happened that night with those vehicles, they didn't know maybe something hadn't happened the day before in one of those vehicles or something.
You got to remember, I don't think that camera was a 24/7 camera. It's because those cameras are, as I said, they're SD cards. If that was 24/7,
I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That would rewrite itself every 8 hours.
Right.
If it was.
Now that I think, if it's motion activated, would it pick up on audio? If by being would it activate by audio? Because we hear
not always though.
We hear it picked up on the crying or the whatever, the thud.
Yeah, and the thud. Yeah,
so
but it could have but remember though, it could have a 5-minute trigger. So when it triggered him driving by, it could have recorded 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, that file size, you got the scream, the thump. Think about it. Even though it's 4 a.m., somebody falling in a house.
Or cloud-based, where it does record and then it just records over itself.
I mean, it could be, but I think those are like $30-$40 cameras. They're just kind of like you're renting a place. That's the camera
Yeah.
you put because you can't install it on the house. Rental agreements and stuff. So you screw it in, you put an SD card in it, and it's there to protect you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the house where the girl's car. Remember somebody put out the body cam where the footprint was on the front seat, and the camera didn't get it.
Yeah.
How the hell didn't it get it in that driveway, but it gets across the street? Pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
Pretty phenomenal. So yeah, I was gonna have Jeremy on yesterday, and I feel bad for Jeremy. The poor guy got destroyed because he talked to the media multiple times.
Right.
It's crazy to me. People should apologize to the kid. Not the kid. He's 20. He's in his late 20s. But you know what I mean. Like the guy got destroyed.
He did. I mean, like I said, and for no reason. I mean, there were a lot of casualties in this. I mean,
yeah.
No one compared to the victims, of course.
Poor Jack DeCore.
Like I said, if your name was Jack and you went to University of Idaho, you've had a bad couple of months.
Yeah. Think about poor Jack right now. He has the dog. This just got released yesterday. He knew nothing. This dog saw a lot.
Right.
This dog saw a lot.
And let's be honest, he was dating above dating above his pay scale, and and she's gone. People
like say shit about the way he wrote under her social media. Like some of his stuff was a little bit perverted, but he's a kid,
right?
And they're 20 years old. They're not thinking that anybody in their 40s is going to be
right. I was critical of Jackass, and
I was critical of Jackass until it's still things. But
at the end of the day, the
guy put his hat on. Remember, he turns his hat and flips his hood up. But now it makes sense.
That's it.
But think about this. In the bar, he's in the bar. He's 10 feet away while Kaylee's talking to her ex Jack. He's watching that. Then he walks with them. When he gets to the truck, he's probably thinking, shit, somebody might see me with them. So he puts his hat around and he flips his hood up.
Right.
And that could be the reason. Oh. No, but listen, that could be the reason the girls kind of ignore him because they don't want people, the other kids in the school could look up, hey, who's up the road truck right now? And they see, him with them. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, clearly he was there. I think he was just trying to get laid, but. And
I agree. I agree.
Maybe something had happened previously with him and one of the girls. Who knows? Not our business. But I'm sure.
Could that be what Adam was told about?
Right. That's
that maybe Jackass might have been trying to hook up with one. It is what it is.
That's and when you're that age, everything is the biggest thing in the world. So what might sound important after you find out these people get murdered, isn't necessary. They could have been talking about just the smallest of things.
Yep.
And it would have sounded.
Now thinking about Bryan's eating habits, right? People are saying, "Oh, it had to be maybe Zaina or Maddie because they worked at the Greek restaurant." Yes, the Greek restaurant had vegetarian options,
but they weren't. But it wasn't a vegan restaurant.
It wasn't a vegan restaurant. He's not going to eat there. I don't see him eating there. Maybe having a drink, but
salad.
I don't.
Or a Greek salad, maybe. Like something that
utensil. He won't eat off utensils that has meat on it.
True.
That's ever touched meat.
Right. I mean, I would assume he has to make an exception at some point in his life for that.
I looked up because somebody wrote it on Twitter asking, when he goes to state prison, what's it going to be like there?
California and one other state are the only ones that do.
No, Idaho's been serving vegan meals since 2007.
Really?
Now, I don't know if it's every single state facility, but a guy, I searched it, and a guy, let me tell you what this guy said, because it's pretty interesting. There's a guy that did time. What the hell did he do time for? It says what he did time for. Hold on.
I know that someone else I knew looked it up, and there were like 2 states that offered vegan, and then they weren't sure about federal, but.
Yep. There it is. It says.
I would assume with kosher, most states would have to provide something.
Yeah, something. but not like that. It says when Luther Hill was sent to prison in 2001, he knew there'd be some lifestyle changes. I was surprised by the availability of better, healthier food, says Hill, 42, who is serving time in Idaho for drug possession. So he became a vegan. No animal products in his diet. Luckily for Hill, he's behind bars in Idaho, which boasts the country's most vegan-friendly state prison system.
Wow.
Never knew that. So this was 2007 when they wrote about it. But you're talking about 20 years ago, they started serving vegan?
And vegan food's come a long way in 20 years.
Yeah. It says PETA examined menus in every state, rating options like tofu cacciatore. Pennsylvania was number 3, and vegetable fajitas in North Dakota was number 10.
Wow.
So this is I'll send you this because it's just an interesting read of,
it is.
Because
I mean, even what we heard about what Bryan was given in Pennsylvania, it sounded like it was peanut butter. It was peanut butter and jelly, beans, rice. I can't remember what else they said, but I mean, it was. I mean, it was something.
Okay, if he was in the Tombs, it is called the Tombs in New York City. Okay, this is the one under Manhattan jail. But if you're in the Tombs, you know what you get served, and the only thing you get served is an old ass bologna and cheese sandwich.
That's what I thought.
And the bologna looks like a piece of Spam.
Right.
That's gross. And the whole thing is, you're vegan? Take the meat off and eat the cheese and the bread. There's no other options. That's it. While you're in central booking under the Tombs, that's all you're getting.
Yeah, and that would be my assumption. Trust me, I've actually thought about the fact because I'm a vegetarian, and I've thought, I'm like, oh, if I ever, not that I'm going to commit a crime, but I'm like, oh, if I ever go to jail, I'm like,
but if say you got something stupid for the suspended license you didn't know about, and you were in the city,
right?
You still spend overnight. You still have to spend overnight until you see the judge in the morning down the city. That's just the way it is. So you're going to have to eat something. You just throw the bologna away.
Right.
Turd said, what did he say? This is a good reason to watch what you post online, not victim shaming. But Maddie posted a lot of provocative photos. Could have been grabbed attention of social. Yeah, Turd, but that's this. I'm not from this generation. I'm in my early 40s. Nobody I know that would do that, but my niece and all her friends. That's what it looks like.
Hey,
that's
and
just
what's provocative one person
days.
is not provocative to someone else.
Yeah. Listen, some of the pictures in bikini, I could understand what he means.
I get
it. That's just the way of the world now. That's just what it is.
It'd be hard for a girl like Maddie or Kaylee or Xana, anyone, or Ethan even. Ethan's a good-looking guy. It'd be hard for them to do anything that didn't look desirable to certain people. Like Kaylee's dad said, it was hard for them not to get attention.
Yeah. Steph, I don't know if you heard me, but they do. I don't know if it's every single prison in Idaho. I think it might depend on how many inmates or whatnot.
I'm not saying when I was their age, a lot of people when you're their age, you don't have the confidence level you do, or you care more about what other people think that you do when you're older.
Yep.
And getting that validation from people can feel nice.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna diss her for.
Listen, we're in a different realm.
I'm 41 years old now. I mean, I wish I'd taken more hot pictures of myself when I was 20.
Yeah. It's funny. Where the hell was that picture? Oh, my wife opened up like a laptop or something, like one of her old MacBooks, and there's like a picture of me I'm on an island in my mid 20s, right? And I go, man.
Get your shell necklace on?
No. I had like a polo, a polo tank top. I was nice jacked up. I go, man, didn't I look good when I was in my mid 20s? She goes, you were on that vacation with your ex-girlfriend. I go, that's what you think about though? It's crazy where I'm thinking about myself in the picture, and she's thinking about there was nobody else in the picture. It was me against a palm tree, chilling out. Oakley's on, nice, and she went there. It's pretty funny though.
Yeah. That's what she thinks.
But it's just funny how how she relates that picture to how I do.
Right, Krista. I agree with Krista. I'm so grateful that I'm like, what?
Yes.
There's occasions that I'm like, oh, I wish I could get back into my old MySpace account, but
yeah. Listen. Social media. Think about it. It's a great thing, but it's also a curse.
Absolutely.
We had a kid last month, right? He had a full scholarship to, I want to say maybe the Florida Gators for football, right? He was a quarterback. I forget what position he played, but he put a video up of him just bopping to his song, and it had,
I know you're talking about,
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Had the the word, the N word in it,
yeah,
and he lost the scholarship over it.
yeah.
And it's like you have to
Kids have to
really
know that now.
be, and I understand you can like the certain music, but it's just the perception of the video.
Not that
Not
anyone
that he
should
did it on purpose to hurt anybody's feelings. He just had a song on.
right.
But
and
at
not
the end
and
of
not
the
that anyone
day,
should get a pass for anything like that anymore.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
sadly,
it's a real catch-22.
Yeah,
It is. It's a catch-22.
100%. Because I mean, you can't. I mean, college admissions look into your social media now. A job is going to look into your social media. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't, post. I mean, sometimes even just going out pictures, a company is going to be like, we're going to steer clear of that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, and the whole thing is this is what I teach my daughter now. She's turning 11 years old. I'm like, you got to know that, because she has an account under us on TikTok, but just her small group of friends, and it's blocked. Nobody can see it. It's just, you can lock everything down. But I'm trying to explain to her is that what you put on is there forever.
Yeah.
I explained to her, I'm like, even though it's locked and it's private, you never know who would, of your select few friends, would record that and put it out there. I said, so you got to think everybody in the world is. She goes, oh, I understand, Dad. You gotta prepare your kids.
It changes every day. I mean, even if you, I mean, not to go back to Delphi, but I mean, if you look at the world in 2017 or 2016, and you look at the things that have been brought out from Libby, especially from her online presence. I mean,
just think of the phone that was in her hand taking that video.
Absolutely,
but if it was today, you might have had a clear picture.
She was on Musical.ly, which is now TikTok.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Instagram and Facebook, I mean, these are things that she was doing completely on an innocent level. Whereas no one could have known that there were people nefariously doing things on the other side.
But that's the whole thing, is that anybody listening with young kids, you gotta prepare them for the predators that are out there.
And it's hard because how do the parents stay ahead of the kids? And you can't.
You have to watch everything, though.
But that's what I'm saying. But you have to also realize
it's not about being overbearing on them. It's just you got to make sure your kid understands there are bad people in this world.
Right. But you can't expect that you're going to be, because you can't stay ahead of them technology wise.
No.
Like the second you think
I don't know how to use TikTok. I don't even know how to use TikTok.
Like I said, everyone's like, okay, my kid has Instagram, but we control it. Then they all start doing Finstas.
Yeah.
And now there's like every there's Be Real, like every like what the yellow app. Then there's like what was the one? This one, Visco, VSCO. Like every single crime now, there's like a new social media app.
Yeah. The good thing about that is that like you're able to see the app purchases. There's no hiding stuff. You can go right under the. But you have to watch. It's like anything else. It's not that you want to smother your kid. But my whole thing is, my kid's not going to be a victim because I didn't prepare her for what is that. You know what I'm saying?
And you just have to be aware. I mean, even like adults. I knew someone that found out they were getting cheated on. Their partner was having their husband was having an affair, and he was using the game Words with Friends, the chat option on Words with Friends.
Oh.
To talk to his mistress.
What a sneaky bastard.
So she was like, "Oh, my husband plays Words with Friends." He played Words with Friends, but all he did was chat with his mistress in the chat section.
That's sneaky, man. Sneaky fox.
Yeah, but I'm like, like that's what that's what these predators do as well. They'll like direct you into these apps that seem innocuous or seem.
I told you, like Roblox. My son and his friends, they all play Roblox. And I heard his friend the other night go, Christopher, why is that person keep walking into us? it's like and they're saying hello. You could see them trying to talk. I'm like, my kid knows. He's scared of everything. He's like, I'm not talking to anybody I don't know. But it's like you don't know if that could be a toddler bumping into you, following you, or that could be a 50, 60-year-old man hunting children. You just don't know.
I make fun of my 40-year-old friends that are like, you're playing Call of Duty. I'm like, you're shit talking like an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Over here, like,
do.
Like you get home from your your finance job and you're like, over here trying to beat up a 12-year-old.
It's true. It's very true. Turd says there's a difference between killing people and really killing people. If he wanted them dead, he could have messed with the furnace, take them out with carbon dioxide. Turd, that this Bryan was to me this was his first time, but this was he was going to be a career killer until he was caught. We have to be happy that he did make one mistake with his DNA, because the whole thing is you want to attach him to inside the house. Yeah. You have to attach. You could drive by. You could have him his pinpoints all you want. You need to have him inside the house. So you got Dylan seeing him, to being able to describe his build, his height, his body type, his bushy eyebrows is huge. On top of having the one piece of DNA, and I'm sure they have his shoes. The Vans that they got in the doorway.
Absolutely. I mean, I had that footprint picture from like the first week, and I'm like, I mean, just like I had the Jack in the Box bag, and I didn't know the significance of it, but I was thinking to myself, I bet he. I mean, clearly he knew he dropped the sheath, but
I don't think he knew until later.
Well, no,
he was just so hyped up.
But I mean, after the fact, I think he had to have known he dropped the sheath. But I think that he still at that point thought I don't think he thought he had left any DNA, because he didn't think he knew it was not in the system. Mm-hmm. So even if they found DNA, I don't think he was that worried about it.
Well, think about this too, right?
I don't know if he knew his dad had done 23andMe or whoever it was.
No, when you drive on a dark street, right, late at night, 4 a.m., and you look at a house and they have a Nest camera, whatever Ring camera, you can see the night vision, the dots. The red dots are there. So even if he probably, you're gonna driving by 12 times, you're gonna be looking at who has a camera, whatnot. You're never gonna get past that. A camera is gonna get you in the area, but the whole thing is he thought he beat the house. If he beat the house, it's going to be very hard to get him, on the murders, And
it could go through your mind, if your car is regularly seen on a camera, it might make you look less suspicious, because you might be someone in the neighborhood at that point.
Yeah.
You might be a normal college student that's just in the area.
We don't know if he made a friend somehow over there to have that out. Oh, I was going to go and see if my friend was having a party. We don't know.
If he wasn't at the Halloween party.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the Halloween party. I really feel that was the night.
You and I both have said that all along.
Yeah, I just think that they never shut down to where he could enter.
Yeah, I've said, and Kaylee was gone. If Kaylee was the target, she was gone after that Halloween party until that weekend.
Yeah.
To me, that doesn't seem like it would be an coincidence, but
no,
it could be. I mean,
listen, they're
just as easily been the target.
Their social medias were open, so you could see them. They posted that picture that day.
I know.
So they could have been playing that from 3 p.m. when that picture went up on the apartments down the hill. Where they took the picture over there.
Yeah.
So law enforcement, A plus. A minus. I'll give them A minus because of the cars not being removed, even though it didn't end up mattering. But listen, they're human. It's human error.
I hope someone in the Moscow Police Department is sitting at home right now watching us going, yeah, he doesn't even know what he's talking about, because I know what he doesn't know yet.
Yeah, no, it's true. Listen, they everything isn't in there, even though it seems like it is.
Yeah.
They packaged it up with a big red bow, and honestly, this definitely helps the families to. There's never closure. A part of them died that day.
Yeah, and a lot of people
their heart died that day.
Well, of course, yeah. And not a lot of people have even talked about the fact that I don't know who was all there. I know Kaylee's family, and I know several of the other victims' families were in court yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think Matt was. I didn't see anybody from Maddie's family there.
I don't know. I don't know that,
Yeah.
but I know that. But a lot of people haven't talked about the fact that they sat there and they looked at him for the first time because they weren't in Pennsylvania. So, I mean, they looked at this guy for the first time.
Well,
And
I said it before you came on that when they announced Kaylee's name,
her mom broke down. Her mom broke down.
You heard them. They all broke. You heard them. It was.
Yeah.
I think it was the dad that started to cough.
Okay, I heard Bryan in talk about it last night.
Yeah.
But I mean, and he didn't give them the acknowledgement of anything. He didn't look at them. Nothing.
No.
With the exception of like that.
And he definitely knows who they are because they've been on the news since the day after. He has been hyper focused on this investigation since. Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. And the social media.
We don't know. We also don't know what his computers have on them.
That's what I mean. That's what I was about to say. I think I tried to read between the lines in some of the affidavit, which is why I noticed things like the Johnson, Idaho thing. I'm like, why mention that if it's not relevant? Like the things that don't make sense, the anomalies, like the hour and 10 minutes afterwards, and the Johnson.
Well, did you see if maybe does Johnson, Idaho have a body of water?
No, I mean, I didn't look into it that deeply. I just looked into the fact that it's an hour away and makes no sense they would have put it in the affidavit.
Yeah.
Johnson. But I mean, I also think about the fact that I feel like they alluded to little parts in the affidavit about. I think the social media aspect is going to come into play a lot more than we realize now. Especially
Johnson, Idaho doesn't look like it has anything going on.
Exactly. Why be there?
It's just land.
It's an hour away. Why go there?
Wow. I mean, you make sure you take a look at it after.
No, I know. I've looked at it.
It's just green land. It's just land.
No, I've looked at it, which is why I was like, but I mean, all I had to do was literally see that it was an hour away and there was nothing there, and I was like, why is this in the affidavit?
Yeah.
But I think the social media aspect is going to come into play a lot more, especially his actions after the murders.
Yep. Very true. Let that go away. Thank you, Blakesley, for the super sticker. I appreciate that.
But yeah, no, the Johnson, Idaho thing. Like I said, I would put a pin in that. For everyone watching, like, I think it's going to come into play, and if not,
yes.
I mean, I don't have any professional background, so. It's just something.
It's not about having a professional background. It's a good point to make because there doesn't seem to be anything here.
Right. I think of everything that's written. There has to be a reason to put it in there. And to me,
there has to be. How does it say it?
I can't. I have it somewhere.
I'm right here. I'm looking to see. I'm right here. I'm at the GPS point. So let me see what it says.
The one joking thing I will say about the whole affidavit is, boy, they could have not picked like lower quality like pictures.
I mean, it says like this is not to scale. You can't even see shit. You see is the yellow square, the legend for the yellow square. That is it.
I mean, I feel like someone's like, this is like someone on Delphi being like, no, you see that's a foot, and then there's the bunny.
I think they took a whole page map and just squeezed it down, and they thought like it would be better off, but it is terrible.
Yeah. That was the only giggle I got out of the whole thing.
It really, you are right, that doesn't make any sense. Now, where the hell is this? I'm looking at it now because I'm curious to see what it says too. I want to know why they did bring that up. You got the Lewiston, Idaho.
Right.
Here it is. Additional analysis. You like that? There's a lot of analysis in here. Analysis of a crime with CD. Additional analysis of records for 8458 phone indicated that between approximately 5:32 and 5:36 p.m., the 845 the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Johnson, Idaho. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network from 5:36 to 8:30 p.m. So he turned his phone off for 3 hours.
Right. Again.
Wow. Yeah. So that tells me that they might be looking for something there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was and the date, and I can't, that was the date that was on was
on
that the
November
15th?
13th. Wait, 16.
Oh, that was that was the night of the 13th. Yeah. So he had,
That's the night of the 13th. Yeah.
so he had not even slept, I think, at that point, right? Like,
no. How are you sleeping? Nah, there's no way.
And so not only did he did what he did, he then went back to the crime scene.
Yep.
5 hours
Until
later,
9:21 a.m.
went and got coffee, went to the store, and then ended up driving an hour away, from anything.
Forget about the hour away. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But he was there there's a 3-hour period. The question is, they don't put in there what he did immediately after that when his phone goes back on.
True.
Which is very interesting too.
Right. And to me, when I read it the first time, I was like, okay, they could have left it right at the, his phone got home at 5:25 that morning and he turned his phone back on. They could have left it right at that. That would have been enough for this affidavit.
Oh, yeah.
But they included the part where he went back to the scene.
They could have ended at 9:21, him going back to the crime scene. You know?
But they included all these other parts, and I'm like, there's got to be a reason.
There definitely is, and the problem with that is 3 hours is a very long time frame. My question is, when it turns back on, is it at his house? So then if it's at his house, you can remove an hour from that. You see what I'm saying? Because it's going to take an hour from there to get back to his home. So then there's a 2-hour window, and then you got to basically pinpoint outwards, to make a circle to where to target.
Right. And then even the line that says that the phone then stops reporting to the network from 5:36 to 8:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And then even the line after that is confusing. That is consistent with the 8458 phone being in the area for the 845 phone traveled in the area hours immediately following the suspected time of the homicide occurred. Like, well, what does that mean? Because all you said is that it stopped reporting. But then
that wording doesn't make any sense.
Right, because then it says, so they were like, they used that as like the reasoning that it's consistent that the phone was in the. So I'm like,
but it would be consistent anyway because you're tracking, you're mapping out, its spots. So that is consistent with the 8458 phone being in the area that the 8458 phone traveled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicides occurred.
Right, because the only thing they talk about in those hours is like is what's seen on video footage.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about that late in the afternoon being talked about on video footage.
Yeah, it talks about 12:46, the Clarkston, Washington grocery store. Basically, no, that whole thing is basically it's like checks and balances. Where he's driving, they have a camera saying he was here.
Right.
So yeah, that is a very odd. It's a very odd paragraph.
I found that, and the fact that they put it at the very end. They're like, so it was important enough they included it.
Yeah.
But
it's at the end for a reason. They made sure to add it in before they went into the DNA from the father matching his.
Yeah. So like I said, it could be nothing or it could be very important. But I would put a pin in it and keep. When it comes to court, we'll see.
Yeah. Hey there, Don.
But
hey,
I mean, with as smart as they've been about everything else, I mean, I would think that, of course, all of the law enforcement involved, they have to have scoured that area.
Oh, absolutely. The problem is, it's a vast area.
Right.
Just think of where you live, right?
Oh, yeah.
And think of 1 hour away from you, but you being in that spot for 3 hours.
Oh yeah. I mean, an hour from me, I could be in the mountains, and I live in downtown Charlotte, basically.
I mean, same with me, and I mean, not fully in the mountains, but almost there. Almost there. Or I could be somewhere in Jersey,
right,
or somewhere in Connecticut.
I could be halfway to the beach. Actually, I mean, I could be halfway.
There's a lot of ways you can end up, in 1 hour, and then That's what I'm saying. It's like, why didn't they put in where his ping ends up when it comes back online? If it's at his house, then you have only a 2-hour window.
Yeah, but they didn't.
3-hour window is just a long time.
And they didn't include where it came back on at, right?
No.
Yeah.
It just ends. It just ends.
And
the time, so I could show everybody, so everybody else could look at it on the screen. Yeah. I could bring up. There it is.
All we know is the last time
paragraph.
It pinned him in Johnson, Idaho at 5:36 p.m. But then again, nothing till 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
So even if he had left immediately and driven home, there's 2 hours unaccounted for.
Yeah, and 2 hours is a lot of time. A lot of time.
Right, or an hour and 40 minutes. I think it's like an hour. I think it's like an hour and 10-minute drive, but still.
Yeah.
That was
no traffic. I could blast it down to like Atlantic City in an hour and 40 minutes.
That stood out to me like I said, like a sore thumb. But it might mean nothing, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah, very true. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Aspen's channel. Let's get him to 1,000. Let's get him to 1,000. Where are you at? 7 seconds?
I have no idea, actually.
You get there. It's coming.
I'm not a good YouTuber. I don't even check those things. I'm bad about it. I mean, I just started posting on my
38. Next time we got to do a live on your channel, and I'll post it in the community page so that we could bring some people
in. Yeah. Considering a month and a half ago I had like 19 subscribers, it's not bad.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Listen, nothing wrong with that.
So.
All right. Well, my kids are on the way home from school. Yeah, my kids are on the way home from school. But we'll do this. We'll get together again next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go over what else we got.
Yeah. Tell Jeremy I said I hope he's doing well.
He said he might listen, so he might be listening.
Yeah, I hope that he's doing okay because
Jeremy, you're a good guy, man. I feel bad for you.
I do too.
And everybody that accused you should say sorry.
Yeah,
terrible.
Agree.
So awesome. So we'll talk later in chat, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Hey, thank you, Stevie.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm going to leave the chat open for like 5 minutes, and then we'll close it out.
Everyone have a good day.
Bye, everybody. All right, everybody. Thanks again. See you all.